My strong constitution allows my hands to be as steady as a mountain. I draw 3 slender silver needles infused with my inner energy. As I circulate my energy, my wrist suddenly flicks. The silver needles become 3 barely perceptible streaks of lightning. They precisely pierce the spiritual center on her back, and the 3 major vital acupuncture points. The needles enter very deeply. My technique is as swift as can be. Prefect. The madame's body visibly trembles. With the acupuncture system taught by the rejuvenation technique and the entry of the silver needles, channeling my deep, powerful inner energy, it's like an overwhelming force, cutting straight through the cold, poisonous energy entrenched in her body for many years. Right after, my hands blur like moving shadows. Dozens of silver needles continuously land in acupuncture points all over her body. An intense pain, along with the long-lost feeling of open energy channels, arrives together. The madam bites her lower lip tightly. Her hands grasp the bedding with force. The poison from the western regions is forced out bit by bit from her bone marrow by my golden needles. She feels as if a raging fire is burning inside her, melting the previously icy biting poison completely. This raw drag back from the edge of life and death pulls her senses to the extreme. Her awareness magnifies to the limit. After the intense pain, what follows is a hard-to-describe tingling relief and exhilaration. It's the feeling of a long-standing illness finally being cured, like a drought finally meeting gentle rain. The madame's breath gradually becomes rapid and heated. Beads of fragrant sweat cover her smooth forehead. A few damp black strands cling to her slender swan-like neck. Within the effects of the acupuncture, there's a subtle mix of both ambiguity and intense pleasure. She can't help but let out soft, suppressed, hurried breaths, making her presence irresistibly alluring. But my eyes remain clear and focused. My fingers move with lightning speed, like an emotionless god, dancing madly on the boundary between life and death. As the maid enters carrying a bowl emitting a rich aroma of golden medicinal soup sparkling with golden light, the detoxification reaches its critical moment. I direct Madame to turn around, facing the expanse of pure whiteness before me. I remain completely composed and confidently pick up the medicine bowl with one hand. That bowl of medicine charged with top-tier spiritual vitality. I personally feed it to her pale lips. The moment the medicine enters her stomach, the 100-year-old underground spiritual vitality transforms into a wild burst of life energy, surging instantly through her limbs and body. Now is the time. A golden gleam flashes in my eyes. My right hand closes like a sword. And swiftly, I pull out the last main needle sealing her heart meridian. As the silver needle leaves her body, the prefect's wife suddenly leans forward and spits out a large pool of extremely foul-smelling, thick black blood like ink. That poisonous blood lands in the brass basin by the bed, even releasing strands of corrosive black smoke. The fierce toxicity begins to recede with this expelled poison, as if a miracle has occurred. The madam, previously lifeless and pale-faced, regains a vibrant red glow at an astonishing speed. Her cheeks become radiant and healthy again. Even the tiredness at her eyes vanishes.
And
some old ailments and chills from her youth are completely wiped out by this divine needlework, and the double cleansing from the dragon-beard golden medicine eradicated for good. Her mature, unparalleled elegance now shines after deathliness is washed away, like a spectacular peony blooming all at once. Anew, she blossoms in the bedroom. She takes deep breaths of fresh air, enjoying a newfound lightness and rich vitality within her body. When she looks at me again, her eyes are more than grateful now. There's extreme admiration, trust, and even a hint of hidden affection in that complex gaze. I casually wipe the poison from my silver needles with a white cloth. My tone is calm, carrying unquestionable confidence and authority. The poison has been cleared. Madame's life has been saved by me, Luan. Continued acupuncture treatments will be needed to ensure complete recovery. Recognize Gandhi's new powerful supporter. Prefect's wife, Madame Liu, sits upright on the bed, raising her hand, seeing her wrist, once tinted with a bluish poison, now restored to a pure jade-like luster. She slowly clenches her hand, feeling the strong energy surging at her fingertips. She looks again at the bowl nearby, now empty but still glowing faintly with gold, and at the man sitting in the outer room, calmly cleaning his silver needles one by one. An indescribable emotion spreads in her heart. Madame Liu has weathered countless storms in her life. She's seen flatterers and opportunists. She's seen hypocrites seeking fame, but has never met a man like this. No titles or honors, wearing rough clothing, but possessing martial skills that could defeat the prefect's guards with terrifying fighting prowess. With medical expertise that can identify rare Western region poisons at a glance, and the composure to save lives without furrowing his brow, turning away to leave without hesitation. She gazes at Luan's broad, upright back, and the strange feeling in her heart only grows stronger. Just then, a flurry of hurried, chaotic footsteps, commies from the courtyard getting closer. Then, the steward matron's excited voice announces, "Master has returned, the master is back." Right after, the bedroom door is flung open from outside. A man in official robes, travel-worn, with brows showing traces of handling civil unrest, with lingering fierce energy. A middle-aged man rushes into the room. This is the newly appointed prefect, Liu Huayan. He clearly received the urgent news of Madame's critical illness on his way, and rushed here without even changing his official robes. Mounted directly to hurry home, he bursts into the bedroom, first glancing at the bed, where Madame Liu is glowing with health, nodding gently towards him. He immediately stops in his tracks, completely stunned. "Madame, your complexion." Liu Huayan's voice trembles. He can't believe it as he walks quickly to the bedside, takes Madame Liu's wrist, and carefully checks her condition for a moment. After a moment, he suddenly turns towards me standing in the outer room, striding over. His eyes are slightly reddened, but his voice is deeply restrained, carrying the composure that only a man long in power can possess. "Sir, you have saved her life. Liu is deeply grateful, and there is nothing I can offer in return? If you do not mind, tonight this prefecture is your home." I put the last silver needle away in the case, raise my eyes, looking at the grateful magistrate, and speak calmly as always. "Your Excellency is too kind. I simply helped as needed. There's no need for any reward." Such calm, detached attitude actually makes Liu Huayan look at me even more seriously. Able to acquire dragonbeard golden medicine, able to identify Western region poison, and within just 1 hour, pull his beloved wife back from the brink of death. This person is anything but ordinary. If I can secure someone of such caliber firmly on my side, whether it's handling the disaster among refugees in my jurisdiction, or planning my future political career, it would be an incredible boost. Liu Huayan was calculating in his mind how to win him over, but Madame Liu, lying on the bed, spoke first. "Husband, there's something I wish to say to you directly." With the maid's support, she very steadily got up from the bed. She walked over to Liu Huayan's side, looked at her husband, then glanced over at me. In those eyes brimming with spirit, there was a warmth and determination that brooked no argument. After young Master Liu risked his life alone tonight and opened the main gate of our yamen, he single-handedly cured an illness that has plagued me for years. Such kindness, calling it life-saving, is not an exaggeration. Madame Liu paused for a moment. A truly sincere smile appeared at the corner of her lips. I've always wished I had a younger brother since childhood. Today, fate has brought us together. So I boldly wish to recognize young Master Liu as my sworn brother. I wonder if you would be willing to accept. The moment these words were spoken, the maids and stewards nearby showed a variety of expressions. Everyone held their breath and snuck glances at the prefect's reaction. Liu Huayan was stunned for a moment, then immediately laughed heartily. He patted Madame Liu's hand. A flash of shrewd calculation and genuine approval passed through his eyes. Madame is right. This is a happy occasion, a great event. In front of all the servants present, he stepped forward, adopting an extremely hearty and sincere posture, and personally cupped his hands toward me. Brother Liu, receiving my wife's recognition, is your good fortune, and mine as well. From now on, you're part of the Liu family. The entire county is now your playground, my brother-in-law. Anyone who dares to touch a hair on you, I'll be the first to object." The prefect's words rang out powerfully, echoing in the bedchamber. I looked at the cultured and the military before me. One, a grateful high-ranking young woman. The other, a politically astute magistrate. To be honest, Liu Huaiyan's motives were obvious to me. He simply wanted to use this nominal family tie to bind someone like me who holds a divine artifact, a man of unfathomable potential, tightly to his cause. But am I not doing the same? In this famine-ridden era of Daxia, having the prefect, the one who holds absolute power over life and death in the county, as my backer, is equivalent to erecting an unbreakable barrier across this entire region. No one could overcome it. It's always good to have a big tree to lean on, especially when that tree is eager to support you. I smiled slightly, bowed naturally, and solemnly saluted Madame Liu, Junior Liu and Greet's elder sister. Just those 5 words made Madame Liu's already tearful eyes suddenly brim with hot tears. She broke into a smile through her tears and turned to instruct a maid to fetch an exquisitely crafted jade thumb ring. She personally slid it onto my finger. "This is my first meeting gift to my new younger brother. And in the future, big sister will have many more good things for you." Liu Huaiyan burst out laughing and immediately ordered a banquet to be set in the main hall, so this divinely blessed kinship could be properly celebrated. While the banquet in Qiantang was in full swing, that long missing, cold, mechanical voice in my head dutifully echoed right on cue. Ding, hidden scenario completed. Achievement unlocked, sworn brother to the prefect's wife. Within the county limits, host status +20. No one dares to cross you. System has detected a key class advancement. Processing major rewards. Reward granted, top-tier Duan fragment, experience of Shinji boxing manual. A bountiful harvest. A new crisis looms. When the banquet at the prefectural yamen dispersed, the night was already deep. Liu Huaiyan personally walked me to the main gate, and as we parted he held my wrist and spoke very earnestly. "Brother Liu, from now on, if anyone in this county ever dares to touch you, just report my name, Liu Huaiyan. If that's not enough, use this waist token." I weighed. The black iron token engraved with guanyin and an axe in my hand, slipped it into my chest, cupped my hands in farewell, turned and walked down the steps, as the 2 imposing vermilion doors slowly closed behind me. Barely walked a couple of steps. An utterly disheveled figure shakily crawled out from the corner of the gatehouse, and with a thud knelt on the stone steps. It was the fat steward. He fell to his knees, bowing his head hard to the cold stone slab, his voice trembling with terror and flattery. "Lord Liu, I was blind and failed to recognize greatness, offending someone as distinguished as you. Please be merciful and spare this dog's life. I'll serve you loyally like a horse or an ox, ready to serve you day and night." His forehead was smeared with dust and mud. No trace remained of his former arrogance at sunset. That overbearing attitude was gone. I stopped in my tracks, looked down at him. Just one look, and the fat steward trembled in pain with terror, his head bowing even faster. "Scram," I spat out the word lightly, not even bothering to spare him another glance. Stepping toward the depths of the street. If one word settles it, no need for a second. At night, the county's streets were deserted and silent. I stepped on the cold, hard flagstones, mentally reviewing the gains of the night one by one. A body strengthened by the premium Duan potion, Shinji Boxing's martial arts foundation, the waist token empowered by the prefect's authority, and Madame Liu as a powerful backer. In just one day, I've gone from penniless fisherman on a riverbank to the prefect's brother-in-law in name a miraculous leap. But I know all too well, it's still far from enough. The lights of Drunken Immortal Tavern were still on. As soon as I stepped through the back door, Wang Fugui, who had been waiting in the corridor, rushed up as if he'd seen a living deity, excitement and flattery written all over his face. mumbling incoherently, unable to form a proper sentence. I ignored him, went straight upstairs, where Yun Yang sat by the window in a private room, an emerald cigarette holder between her fingers, but she hadn't lit it for a long time. Clearly, news had reached her from outside about what had happened tonight at the yamen. At this moment, she was gazing absently at the dark night outside the window, her face unreadable. When she heard footsteps, she turned sharply, recognized it was me, and in that instant, something in her eyes completely burst the dam. She set down her cigarette holder, rose from her chair, took a few quick steps to stand in front of me, lifted her enchanting face, stared at me for a long moment. "You really did it." Her voice was extremely soft, yet there was a tremble in her voice that moved me. She walked into the magistrate's office alone and empty-handed, cured the madam's illness, and walked out with the official badge. I sat down at the table, placed the black iron badge onto the tabletop, pushed it toward her. Yun Yang stared at the badge for a long time, then suddenly lowered her head. Her shoulders gently trembled. I didn't say a word. I waited for her to calm down. After a moment, Yun Yang looked up. Her peach blossom eyes were rimmed with red, but for once there was no charm or cunning in them. All that was left was pure vulnerability. "Lu An, from now on, if you say go east, Yun Yang, will never go west. All the accounts and supply lines of Drunken Immortal Tavern, and the entire city's network of connections, are now open to you. Not because you saved me, but because for the first time in my life, I've met a man like you." I looked at her, the corners of my mouth curling into a faint smile, and casually pushed the badge back to her across the table. "Hold on to it for me for now. I'll need it in a couple days." Yun Yang didn't ask any more. She tucked the badge safely into her chest and sat down next to me, leaning naturally against my shoulder. No more lies. This woman who was usually shrewd and forceful, who ran the entire Drunken Immortal Tavern, in the palm of her hand as the formidable manager, now seemed like a regular woman stripped of her armor. In this rare moment of peace, a voice suddenly echoed in my mind. A system notification utterly different from all before. Its tone was several degrees more serious than usual. Detected unrest from external forces outside host's area of jurisdiction. Emergency intelligence. Broadcasting intelligence. Daxia's famine year continues to worsen. Riots among refugees in 3 counties of the Northwest have escalated. Some refugee leaders have begun to gather crowds and declare themselves king. Rebel troops are moving toward this county. Estimated arrival at the outskirts of the county seat in 15 days. System warning to host. Current combat strength now far exceeds ordinary people. But against organized armed conflict, solo combat capability has its limits. Recommendation: host should establish a private armed force as soon as possible and build strongholds to truly protect yourself. I picked up 2 sisters with disastrous marriages. The first thing they did after waking up was make me feed them porridge by mouth. I'm a transmigrator. The original owner of this body was so unlucky and poor even rats avoided him. There was nothing at home but bare walls. A severe famine was underway. Misery was everywhere outside. Just as I was wondering how to survive the next step, a cold, mechanical voice suddenly exploded in my mind. Famine-era family rise system activated. Detected. Host's family members are few and weak. No foundation at all. Core mission issued. Marry and start a household.
Task: expand your lineage.
Reward: 50 jin of premium rice. 15 jin of cured meat. Additional tip: the system has detected at 0.3 zhang outside your door 2 excellent age-appropriate marriage candidates. Identities are compatible. Fate has brought you together. Host, please go out at once. Do not miss this chance. I froze for 2 seconds. Marriage system, you really know how to pick the timing. I don't even have a pot to cook with. But that reward 50 jin of premium rice and 15 jin of cured meat. I forced myself up despite the pain. Suddenly, I heard a very faint thud outside the door. sounded like something heavy, weak and powerless, hitting the rickety wooden door that could fall apart any second. Peering through the crack, I saw two women in tattered clothes. Their faces were covered in dust from fleeing disaster, but those delicate features and figures were like pearls covered in dust, totally out of place in this world full of death. Target locked. Host, please act quickly. I opened the door and carried both of them inside. Laid them gently on the Kong covered with dry straw. Both of them were as light as paper, their bodies ice cold, with only the faintest heartbeat left struggling. Breath so weak, barely a thread. They were in shock. Looking at those two pale, pretty faces before me, I couldn't care about propriety anymore. Forget about differences between men and women. Saving lives came first. I immediately started CPR and mouth-to-mouth on her. Just then, the beauty under me fluttered her eyelashes and let out an extremely weak, baby-like sound. The sound was soft and urgent, like a kitten scratching at your heart. I wiped sweat off my forehead, panting, then quickly bent down to rescue the other woman. So hungry. I really want to eat. All I had left was the last bite of brown rice soup at the bottom of the bowl, so clear you could see your reflection in it, the only possession the original owner had. I hesitated. Detected. Host is at a key mission moment. Share your food and take in Shen Yulan and Shen Yumei, the two sisters. Mission complete in time. Reward delivered immediately. I promptly picked up that bowl of brown rice soup clear as a mirror and held it to Shen Yulan's lips. But she could only open her mouth weakly, her cracked throat locked up from extreme hunger. She couldn't even chew, barely able to swallow at all. No strength to drink. Let me help you, I gritted my teeth. All to get the system's reward. Who cared about manners now? I carefully supported the back of her neck with one hand and fed the warm rice soup slowly into her mouth. Then I gently stroked her throat with my fingertips, helping force her body to remember how to swallow. Shen Yulan's throat finally moved barely perceptibly. Gulp. She swallowed that life-saving soup. I repeated the process for her younger sister, feeding her just the same. The elder sister let two streams of tears roll down her cheeks, bowing deeply to me. Thank you for saving us, benefactor. We sisters are willing to stay with you, work as hard as oxen or horses to repay you. Target Shen Yulan's favorability increased. Mission complete. Reward has been stored in the system warehouse. Host, please collect your reward. I focused my thoughts and felt the space fill with a heavy bag of rice out of nowhere and shiny cured meat. Immediately, I felt full of confidence. At this moment, the two sisters recovered a bit. Shen Yulan finally haltingly explained. They were once members of a wealthy household in the neighboring county, but lost everything in the famine. Their heartless relatives sold them to County Magistrate Zhao as concubines. They would rather die than submit, and managed to sneak out while the guards napped. Benefactor, please take us in. We can cook and do laundry, work in the fields. Just give us something to eat, and that's enough. Shen Yumei also woke up, clutching at my trouser leg. Her big, watery eyes were full of fear. I was about to reach out to help them up, when a commotion of footsteps sounded at the gate, along with harsh curses. Run. Let's see how far you two little minxes can get. 1. So this is where you were hiding. You poor boy, these two are the concubines I bought with a lot of money. You planning to steal them from me? I stood protectively in front of them and glared coldly at Master Zhao. This is my home. Get out of this rundown mud house. Their deed of sale is still with me. They're worth 70 taels of silver. If you want to keep them, show me the money. If you don't have it, I'll take you with me too, and sell you into the black mines as forced labor. You'll be worked till your bones are picked clean. His bodyguard took a step forward, smacking a club in his palm, with a threatening thud. My mind was racing. I really don't have the money right now, but I do have the food from the system. In times like these, grain is as good as cash. 70 taels, huh? I can't pay right now. Give me 5 days. Give me 5 days' time. I'll pay you back 80 taels. With interest. 5 days? Huh. You, a penniless wretch, how will you pay me? If I can't, my life's yours. Do whatever you want with me. Drag me back to the Zhao residence. He snorted coldly. If you really pay me back 80 taels with interest in 5 days, or I get a free corpse as a laborer. Either way, I don't lose out. All right, you've got guts. Then I give you 5 days. If I don't see the silver or you in 5 days, I'm taking your life and everything else you have. With that, he waved his hand and left, cursing with his thugs. The gate closed again. Benefactor, that's 80 taels of silver. It's not worth risking so much for us. I put my arm around her slim waist. Even though she was thin from famine, she still had a beautiful figure, soft and delicate. The warmth in my arms left me parched. I whispered in her ear, "Don't worry. If I dare keep you both, that means I have a way." Shen Yulin buried her head into my chest, blushing, and Shen Yumei moved closer too, leaning against me, one on each side. That feeling of being completely trusted and relied upon made my heart burn. System detects host has successfully protected family members. Triggering the random reward, divine net casting technique. Every throw hits the mark. Fish in the water guaranteed. Hearing the prompt, a slight smile forms at the corner of my mouth. In these dry years, though the river's water level has dropped, the fish are more concentrated with this divine skill. 80 taels of silver is just scooping up fish with the flow. 5 days, 80 taels. For ordinary people in a famine year, that's a death sentence. But I got the divine net casting technique. All the live fish in this river are true gold and silver. After soothing the Shen sisters, I dug out the original owner's old fishing net with several big holes. Braving the morning dew, I arrived at the riverbank outside the village. This is the only river that keeps its water during the drought. Isn't that the Liu family's little pretty boy about to starve to death? I had just walked to the edge of the creek. A burly man with a face full of flesh, holding a boning knife. Du followers and surrounded me. This guy is Liu the Bearded, the village bully. He's strong and uses that as leverage. He's claimed all these little creeks. Anyone who gets close, he breaks their legs. So, you're about to starve? Here to try your luck on my turf? Let me tell you something. The fish in this creek are my lifeblood. Go ahead, just try to touch them. Around me, a few starving skin and bones Liu Min types hide in the distance, their eyes full of despair and numbness. I ignored his bluster, took a deep breath, silently activated my divine net casting technique in my mind. Suddenly, a strange surge flows through my arms. I twist my waist and hips abruptly. The battered fishing net in my hands draws an almost perfect arc in the air, landing precisely at the center of the creek. The net gathers underwater. The flimsy net cord instantly becomes taut. A tremendous heaviness sinks in. I let out a low grunt, my feet firmly planted in the muddy ground, powering my whole body. Spinning suddenly, with a splash, water sprays everywhere. Inside the battered net, all kinds of fat, lively fish wriggle around. Bluegills, grass carp, and catfish tangled together. Each fish is as thick as a forearm. The glistening scales shimmer in the morning sun, dazzling the eyes. Liu the Bearded's eyes almost pop out in shock. How can that be? But his stunned look quickly shifts into greedy desire. So many fish. The fishermen nearby start swallowing hungrily. Some even unconsciously inch closer. Liu the Bearded reacts fastest. He takes a big step forward. Kid, you've got some moves. But this creek belongs to me, so these fish are mine too. Get lost if you know what's good for you. Or I'll spill your blood right here today. In these famine-stricken times, this is robbery in broad daylight. This is just how things are. I stared coldly at him, my hand tightly gripping a chipped machete at my waist. If it were the original owner, he'd probably be kneeling and begging for mercy now. But I, Luan, have a modern soul. If you want my fish, you'd better risk your life. My calm tone sends chills. Liu the bearded, used to bullying others, immediately thrusts his knife at me. I sidestep, taking advantage of his overextended swing. I kick his wrist hard, then swing the heavy net at his face. With force, he screamed, slamming right into the mud pit, struggling to get up.
His two followers freeze in fear.
I draw my machete and point it at them. Anyone else want to try? That fierce look of someone desperate for survival instantly intimidates the cowards. I waste no time. Knowing even fists can't beat numbers, I haul the heavy net across the ground, striding away under the shocked gazes of Lu Min and the bullies, swiftly leaving the riverbank. After making sure no one followed, I slip into a dense patch of reeds. As soon as I confirm I'm alone, I silently command, collect. Detected, large quantity of fish stored in the system. Warehouse space, preservation enabled. The heavy net that bent my back suddenly feels lighter. Hundreds of pounds of live fish vanish into thin air. I wipe cold sweat from my forehead, feeling my heart pounding. Now, with this skill and the system, making money in this chaotic world will be a breeze. I put on the clean robe stitched by Shen Yulin herself, tidied up my messy hair. With an empty fish basket, I head into the county town. Outside the city gate, misery is everywhere. Inside the gate, it's a whole different scene. It's famine here too, but shops along the street are still open. A faint smell of cooking oil lingers in the air, a scent only the wealthy can enjoy. I head straight for the most luxurious tavern in town, Drunken Immortal Restaurant. This is where the elite gather, and the only place in town that boldly advertises fresh goods for sale. In times of drought like this, whoever brings fresh fish can control the stomachs of the rich. Just arriving at the back door of Drunken Immortal, a disgusting smell of sauce and leftovers
Hits me.
Stop right there. Where'd this broke bum come from? You dare barge in here? A rotund man with a round oily belly, wearing a silk vest, blocks my way. He's holding an ivory fan, waves it dismissively, like I'm a walking plague. This guy is Wang Fugui, the second manager of Drunken Immortal Restaurant, famous for looking down on the poor. I'm here to see your boss. A deal as big as gold. I stand firm, my tone calm without any humility. A big deal with your miserable look. A main dish at Drunken Immortal costs 10 taels of silver. You can't afford it in this lifetime. Get lost. Stop being an eyesore. Don't spoil our valued guest's appetite.
He signals two workers behind him to roll up their sleeves.
Swearing as they move toward me. I'm here to deliver live fish. In this weather, except me, no one in town has live fish over 2 pounds. Manager Wang, you sure you want to kick me out? Wang Fugi's smile freezes for a moment. Lately, drought everywhere. River dried up. No fresh supply for the restaurant. The boss is mad about it. Live fish? In this miserable weather? Even Liu the bearded and his crew can't catch big batches. You poor guy, got live fish? I bet you're just looking to sneak in and steal something. If Manager Wang doesn't recognize quality, then forget it. Neighboring Wangfu House would love to have this batch. Wait, Wang Fugui panics. He doesn't believe me. But if the rival tavern snags it first, he could lose his job. Let me check it out. If you dare bring dead fish or rotten shrimp, I'll break your leg right now. Before his hand touches the basket, I shrug my shoulders slightly. He grabs nothing but air. If you want to see the goods, have your boss talk to me. I turn, staring straight into his eyes. Wang Fugui is shaken by my gaze, then immediately enraged. Given respect, you won't take it? Search him. If you find nothing, send him to the authorities. The two workers lunge at me right away. Stop it, all of you. A lazy, sultry, and feisty voice suddenly drifts down from the wooden window on the second floor.
Almost.
At the very moment this sound rang out, a mechanical voice suddenly exploded in my mind. Rare item detected. You appeared in July. Hidden mission triggered. Shocked the owner of Drunken Immortal Tavern. Yun Yang's mission reward. 1 strength pill. My eyes lit up. I looked up. I saw a stunning beauty, already standing on the second floor's redwood railing. She wore a tight crimson silk dress. The neckline was slightly open. Her deep cleavage was striking. Her waist was curvy, full, and perky. She twirled a slender jade smoking pipe in her hand, exhaled a puff of smoke. Her peach blossom eyes flashed with sharp wit like a finishing blow. When Wang Fugui saw this woman, he instantly bent over like a fawning dog. Boss Yan, this penniless guy just rambles on. Claims he has live fish. I was about to send him off. Shut up. What can those mung bean eyes even see? She swayed her waist, gracefully walked down the stairs. A wave of mature woman's fragrance wafted over. She stepped right in front of me. Her peach blossom eyes openly sized me up. Young man, you're quite handsome. You say you have live fish. If you try to fool me with dead loaches, I'll chop you up and stuff you in buns. Facing such an imposing beauty, I stepped closer to her red lips, smirked a little. I don't just have live fish. I have another trick. That'll make drunken immortal tavern rake in tons of gold every day. Yun Yang's smoking suddenly stopped. A spark of surprise flashed in her eyes. Quite a bold statement. She exhaled another puff of smoke, gave a charming smile, but her gaze was as cold as ice. Fine, I'll give you a chance. If you're bluffing, I won't let you go easily. I didn't bother wasting words. Flipped my hand behind me to reach into what looked like an empty bamboo basket. Silently chanted extract in my mind. As I pulled my hand out, a big black fish weighing about 5 or 6 pounds, alive and thrashing, was held aloft in one hand. The fishtail slapped violently, splashing water directly across Wang Fugui's face. It's really a live big fish. Wang Fugui wiped the water off his face. His eyes nearly popped out. Yun Yang's expression also changed. He stared at the ferocious black fish, then glanced at my warm bamboo basket that obviously couldn't hide such a big fish. A flash of shock in her eyes, but she quickly restrained it. He turned around, swayed her slender waist, led the way to the kitchen. The kitchen in Drunken Immortal Tavern is huge, but due to drought and lack of fuel, a few workers were idly dozing off. Chef Zhang eyed the fish in my hand, then looked over my rough linen robe. His face was full of contempt. Boss, you let this refugee touch my cutting board. You're ruining Drunken Immortal Tavern's reputation. I ignored him, walked straight to the cutting board, picked up a cast iron kitchen knife. Before I transmigrated in my previous life, I graduated from a certain culinary institution, skilled in all the crafts, can drive excavators, handle iron tools, fish preserved in space kept fresh. Its meat had already been purified to perfection. No earthy smell at all. What I'm about to make is a modern minimalist, but highly demanding dish, crystal fish slices. I took a deep breath, rotated my wrist. The knife sliced straight along the fish spine. Scales removed, bones and spines extracted. My movements were smooth and fluid, so fast it dazzled the eyes. Chef Zhang's disdain froze instantly. His mouth slightly opened. My hand moved, knife fell. Sliced fish meat into almost transparent thin slices. Layered them on a white porcelain plate, like a blooming snow lotus. Then I grabbed the kitchen's only coarse salt, old vinegar and a few drops of sesame oil. Quickly mixed a dipping sauce in modern proportions. I set down the knife, pushed the plate toward Yun Yang. Chef Zhang swallowed hard, forgot about proper etiquette, snatched a slice and dipped it, stuffed it in his mouth. Chewed just twice. He suddenly gasped. With a thud, his knees buckled and he knelt right at the cutting board. Amazing, these fish slices melt in the mouth. There's no earthy taste at all. So fresh, it's like you could swallow your tongue. I, Zhang, have wielded the wok for 20 years. It might as well have gone to waste. Chef Zhang, you must have been bribed by this kid. Stop pretending. Yun Yang ignored him. She stretched out 2 pale fingers, picked up a chopstick, elegantly took a slice of fish, sent it into her alluring red lips. The instant her eyes closed, her voluptuous body trembled slightly. Her fair cheeks suddenly flushed like peach blossoms. When she opened her eyes again, the look in her eyes toward me had completely changed. From earlier scrutiny and teasing, to outright, undisguised passion. Wang Fugui, go to the accounts room and fetch 100 taels of silver. Lin Yang dropped her chopsticks, her voice unequivocal. Boss, just for this single fish. Wang Fugui was struck like lightning. Why doesn't my word count anymore? Get moving. Yun Yang narrowed her phoenix eyes, frightened Wang Fugui, who scrambled out. At this moment, a crisp system notification exploded in my mind. Hidden mission accomplished. Successfully shocked Yan Nangying. Target's favorability soared. Reward issued. 1 strength pill. Looking at Yan Nangying, whose chest was gently heaving from excitement, I smiled. Right then, inside my mind, a piercing red alarm suddenly sounded. Emergency alert. Detected major crisis at host's home. 2 core family members are in danger. Return immediately to rescue. UG is about to fail her trial core mission. My heart sank. All my blood, when I heard the system's urgent warning, instantly dropped to freezing. Boss Yan, lend me your fastest horse. I kicked open the half-closed door in the backyard, jumped onto the horse's back, grabbed the horse whip, lashed it hard across the horse's rump. When I was just a few dozen steps from my rundown mud brick house, still some distance away, I already heard from inside Shen Yumei's frantic, terrified cries, and Shen Yulan's hysterical screaming. My heart tightened. I kicked open the rickety, half-open courtyard gate. Let go of you bastards. The scene in the yard instantly made my eyes burn with rage. 3 men with rough, brutish faces were forcibly grabbing Shen Yumei's clothes, and on the muddy ground, a sleazy middle-aged man in silk, with a mustache, was yanking Shen Yulan's hair, dragging her out. This man is the evil uncle, Shen Daqiang, who sold the twin sisters into a hellish brothel. You little sluts. Master Zhao spent a fortune buying you. You still dare to run, and made me owe Zhao's family money. Today I'll tie you up and take you back to settle the debt. Shen Daqiang cursed as he greedily pried open Shen Yulan's hand. Clutching her fingers tightly, he forcibly dug out from his palm a single orange-colored, old, crescent-shaped jade pendant. That's the only keepsake my father left me. Give it back to me. Shen Yulan's hair was a mess. Her eyes red like they're bleeding. She immediately lunged and bit Shen Daqiang's wrist. But he slapped her across the face, hard. A bright red handprint instantly appeared on her fair cheek. Once your father's keepsake is in my hands, it's mine now. Consider it interest. For the trouble you two caused me these days. Shen Daqiang smugly stuffed the pendant into his pocket. Courting death, a thunderous shout erupted from my throat. When I saw Shen Yulan's face, that shocking handprint, a surge of furious rage completely broke through my self-control. She's the one I risked my life to save. Do you filthy scum think you can touch her? Before Shen Daqiang could react, I had already dashed in front of him like a shadow, using the momentum of my charge. My thick arm swung wide and unleashed a powerful hook punch, with a sound like it was tearing through the air, landing directly on his face, accompanied by a teeth-grinding crack of bones. Shen Daqiang's scream stuck in his throat. Several blood-streaked molars flew straight out. His whole body went limp like a pile of mud, and was sent flying 2 or 3 meters away, crashing hard into the mud wall. I landed in the mud pit. The 3 thugs who grabbed Shen Yumei were so terrified by the sudden turn that they shuddered. They hastily drew the short batons from their belts. I didn't give them a chance to make threats. With a swift backhand slash with the machete, the blunt side hit viciously, landing precisely on the front man's kneecap. He screamed and dropped to his knees. I followed with a brutal knee strike, driving it straight into his chin. His eyes rolled back instantly. He spat out a mouthful of blood and passed out cold. The 2 left realized things were bad and tried to run in terror. I quickly chased them down, delivering a heavy kick to each of their backs. Both spat out bile on the spot, rolling on the ground in pain. They couldn't even get up. I ignored those weaklings and strode over to Shen Daqiang, still twitching on the ground. He clutched his bloodied face, looking at me in utter terror. When he tried to beg for mercy, I lifted my foot, wearing hard-soled straw sandals, with utter ruthlessness, without a shred of mercy, and stomped down on the hand he'd just used to hold the pendant, twisting my ankle forcefully, grinding down hard. Spare me, please. Shen Daqiang's shrill screams echoed through the whole courtyard like a slaughtered pig. I bent down, reached into his chest, and with utter contempt, yanked out that jade pendant, then wiped it slowly and carefully, clean of blood on his tattered clothes. Go tell Boss Zhao. This was left behind by Luan. I looked down at him condescendingly. like the grim reaper staring at an ant. If you dare send trash like you to touch my woman again, next time, it won't be just your hand. It'll be your neck. Take these losers and get lost. The thugs, relieved to be spared, scrambled to drag the crippled Shen Daqiang away, fleeing like beaten dogs from the courtyard. I calmed my murderous aura, walked over to Shen Yulin, still slumped on the ground, knelt down slowly, and gently placed the pendant back into her cold, trembling hand. It's okay now, I'm back. Shen Yulin clutched her lost and found keepsake tightly, looked up at me, and tears poured down like broken pearls. Just then, from the dirt road at the village entrance, came the creaking sound of cartwheels. The department's ox cart finally arrived, loaded with a mountain of golden rice, dripping fatty pork and brand new quilts. It stopped steadily at the courtyard gate. Stop crying. Go see what I brought for our family. I stood up and pointed outside the door. When the sisters saw the cart piled with life-saving food and winter supplies, all their previous fear, vanity, and anxiety were overwhelmed by the sense of security those supplies brought. Late at night, the Kang was burning hot. I was full and satisfied. The theater room door was gently pushed open. Shen Yulin walked in carrying a steaming basin of water. She had changed into the brand new skirt I bought today. That beautiful dress. Her smooth black hair draped over her shoulders. Under the dim, flickering candlelight, her already gorgeous face was flushed bright red, with eyes burning with a moth-to-flame determination and ultimate tenderness. Master, the water's ready. Yuling will assist you with your bath. She set down the basin and walked over to me, her delicate, trembling hands loosening the buttons of my top. The moment her fingers touched my chest, her tears slipped down uncontrollably again. Without you, Yulin wouldn't have even been able to keep father's last keepsake today. And the two of us would have been better off dead. She suddenly looked up. Those watery eyes stared straight at me, her voice very soft, but every word full of pain. The gratitude is too great. Yulin can't repay it. From now on, Yulin belongs to Master while alive, and to Master even in death. Even if you asked me to die, I wouldn't even frown. I looked at her slender, curvy waist and utter devotion. My desire was instantly lit. I didn't say a word, just reached out and pulled her slender waist, drawing her soft, warm body into my arms. Water splashed everywhere, full of passion. No idea how long passed, but suddenly a cold light and a mechanical voice, electrifying, sounded in my mind. System notification. Detected. Host has successfully accepted first core family member. Family's thriving. Prerequisite activated. Cohesion greatly increased. Congratulations, host, you've received a special reward. 1 marrow cleansing pill. Take it to transform your body. Greatly enhance your physique. Congratulations, host, on gaining the skill. Basic combat mastery. Allows the host to master 100 martial arts, turning them into deadly techniques. I suddenly opened my eyes. In the darkness, Shen Yulin in my arms was like a docile cat, sleeping soundly, with a satisfied smile at the corner of her mouth. A single thought. I immediately retrieved the marrow cleansing pill. The moment I swallowed it, a violent heat exploded from my core, raging wildly through my limbs and bones. My previously weak and frail body released a series of cracking bone sounds. Muscles began to rapidly reconstruct. Strength surged in like a fountain. Even my eyesight and hearing became extremely sharp. I slowly clenched my fists, feeling the power inside me, strong enough to kill a bull with a single punch. And the martial arts skills in my mind were crystal clear. A proud, cold smile curled at my lips. In this world, just having money isn't enough. You have to be able to defend it too. Early morning sunlight just broke through the leaky curtains, spilling onto the Kang. Before I could savor the lightness after the marrow cleansing pill, a shrill uproar shattered the peace in the courtyard. Lu, get your ass out here for the boss. With a loud bang, the already rickety courtyard door was violently kicked open. The sound of wood hitting the ground was especially jarring in the silent dawn. Shen Yulin in my arms let out a cry, bolted upright, wrapping the thin blanket over her bare shoulders, her face instantly bloodless. Master, that's Boss Zhao's voice. Inside, Shan Yumei stumbled out as well, barefooted. eyes full of utter despair. On the verge of breaking down, I rolled out of bed and slowly put on my coarse cloth top. After waking up, I felt my senses sharpened. I could even hear the breathing of a dozen people in the yard. Heartbeat. Even the slightest sound of sticks cutting through the air can't escape my perception. The power of the marrow-washing pill is surging wildly through every fiber of my body. Like a fierce beast trapped for ages, desperate to break free. Don't be afraid. I gently rubbed Shen Yulin's still warm, delicate face with my hand, then patted Shen Yumei's cold hand. My tone was as calm as if I were talking about eating shit tomorrow. Just stay in the house. Bar the door tightly. Watch your man put on a show for you. But they outnumber us. Shen Yulin clung tightly to my shirt hem. I gently pried her hand off. The corner of my mouth curled into a cold sneer. Numbers don't matter. They're all the same to me. I pushed the door open and stepped out. The courtyard was packed with people. Zhao, the landlord, wearing his signature dark purple silk jacket, idly playing with two perfectly round lion head walnuts. His brutish, fleshy face looked even more menacing in the morning light. Behind him stood 12 sturdy household guards, each holding a staff, their gazes fierce. Seeing me, landlord Zhao gave a cold and sinister laugh. Lu En, I lay awake last night in bed, and the more I thought about it, the more I felt ripped off. 5 days, I can't wait. Either give me 80 taels of silver now, or I take those two little bitches with me now, and chop off your hands to feed my dogs. I rolled my wrists a bit, knuckles audibly cracking. This explosive feeling is really thrilling. Zhao, you promised 5 days. How can you have zero integrity? I stepped forward, expression calm. Integrity around here. My fist is the only integrity that counts. Zhao spat thickly on the ground and made a sudden gesture. Get him, beat this punk till he's crippled. Just keep him alive, that's all. 3 guards exchanged glances, then rushed forward first. The lead one swung his staff, whistling straight for my head. Before, perhaps, that blow would have sent me straight to reincarnation. But now, with my mastery of combat, his moves look like he's crawling in mud. One sidestepped lightly, the staff just grazing my nose. In that instant, his move slowed. I suddenly stepped in and twisted my waist, landing a simple hook punch to his hand. No flourishes needed. I only felt my fist hit soft flesh, followed by the dull pop of bones dislocating. The big guy, easily 6'1", flew back like a snapped kite, crashing back 5 or 6 meters, slamming hard into the dirt wall. He passed out before he could even scream. The other two hesitated for a moment, then their faces twisted with aggression. Both swung their staffs from the sides. I ducked, my foot tracing a perfect arc on the ground, like a fleeting afterimage, and slipped right between them. I turned both hands into fingers, jabbing precisely at their throats. They both dropped their staffs, collapsing to the ground, clutching at their necks, their faces turning purple-blue as they struggled. What the hell is this sorcery? Zhao's hands froze, mid-play with the walnuts, his voice changing pitch. All of you get in there! Kill him together! The remaining 9 guards were terrified, but under Zhao's furious yell, they bit the bullet and charged all at once. I snorted coldly, rushing forward instead of backing away. The speed boost from the marrow pill made me a blur. Combat mastery gave my body instinctive predictions. I caught an incoming staff with my left hand, twisted and yanked it, snapping the solid wooden staff in 2. I grabbed a broken piece in reverse and smashed it down on my attacker's knee. Screams echoed throughout the courtyard. I wasted no words. Each punch landed with force, each kick aiming straight for the bone. One guard tried to choke me from behind. I swung my elbow back without looking, hitting him square in the solar plexus. He vomited yellow bile on the spot, collapsing to the ground. In less than 3 minutes, all 12 of the once mighty guards were down in the mud, moaning in pain with broken arms, broken legs clutching their bellies, puking and creating a scene of utter chaos. I stepped over this trash, walking toward landlord Zhao one step at a time. his lion head walnuts, fell to the ground with a click. Zhao's face turned deathly pale, his whole body trembling as he backed away, bumping against the still-standing courtyard gate. Don't come any closer. Keep the money, okay? Before he could finish, I lunged forward, instantly appearing before him. The pressure from my combat mastery made him unable to even lift a finger. I reached out with one hand and grabbed his fat, greasy neck like a chick. I slowly lifted him off the ground. All 180 pounds of Seo thrashed in midair, his legs kicking wildly, his face swelling purple as a liver. Both his hands clawed at my arm, like trying to bend a pillar of wrought iron, not budging an inch. I squeezed my fingers suddenly, and Zhao's fat face turned from purple to black. His eyes rolled back, looking like his neck might snap any second. Right before he passed out completely, I tossed him into a mud pit like a dead dog.
He curled up on the ground, gasping desperately for air,
Greedily gulping down oxygen. Overwhelmed by terror, his body trembled uncontrollably, his crotch already soaked and reeking of urine. The stench was intense. I looked down at him from above, my gaze cold and merciless. Leave the indenture contracts. Come after my women again, and you'll never stand tall for the rest of your life. I'll get them. I'll send someone to fetch them right now. At this moment, Zhao had no trace of his landlord's arrogance left. He was like a mangy dog with a broken spine, crawling and rolling toward the exit. The guards, still conscious, saw their master running away and staggered off, wailing and crying. Around the corner of the courtyard, detected family members Shen Yulin and Shen Yumei. Favorable impressions soared due to extreme safety. I turned around, barely steadied myself, when two warm and soft bodies threw themselves at me. Shen Yulin hugged my waist tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. Husband, I thought we were going to die just now. Shen Yumei clung to my arm, her little face still streaked with tears, her eyes glowing with almost fanatical admiration. Shen Yulin's favorability +20. Shen Yumei's favorability +30. Detected. Host has used force to defend the family's honor. Intimidation successful, awarding special skill, turtle breathing technique. Congratulations, host, on reaching a growth milestone. Award, basic prosperity art. Congratulations, host, on obtaining a family fun pack, 50 taels of silver. The night grew deeper. The cold wind seeped straight into the house through the cracks between the adobe bricks. But the fire kong inside burned intensely. I had just finished wiping myself down with warm water. I was about to rest. The slightly open door was gently pushed open. Shen Yuma walked in, holding a brand new cotton quilt. She was wearing nothing but a thin, close-fitting silk skirt. Under the flickering candlelight, her face, still not fully shed of youth, but already stunningly beautiful, was so red it looked like it could bleed. Come. The eldest sister is feeling weak today. Yuma is here to help you rest. Her voice was soft. With her head lowered, those delicate hands were carefully smoothing out the sheets for me. Once the bedding was set, she didn't leave. Instead, she bit her lower lip hard, as if she'd made up her mind about something huge. She slowly raised her head. Her watery eyes no longer held the fear from when we were fleeing. Now they were filled with gentle affection and resolve. You saved our sisters' lives. Whatever my sister can do, Yumai can do as well. Yumai will be yours for life. I looked at her trembling, slender shoulders and that unwavering obedience. A powerful urge to protect her was set ablaze in my heart. In a world where lives are as worthless as grass, the only ones women can truly rely on are the absolute strong. I reached out with my rough hand, grasped her icy little hand, and gently pulled, drawing her soft, fragrant body into my arms. She instinctively let out a half gasp, then tightly closed her eyes. Her arms naturally wrapped around my neck, letting everything fall into place. Shrouded in darkness, I don't know how much time passed. That cold, yet irresistibly tempting system appeared in my mind as always. System notification detected. Host has successfully acquired the second core family partner. Family cohesion has reached its peak. Congratulations, host, for obtaining a special skill reward. Today's luck has been reset. Detected major opportunity at Luoshui River. Recommend host to immediately go fishing there. Unexpected surprises await. Listening to the system's prompts, I held Yumai, who was nestled in my arms like a tame kitten, and had fallen into a deep sleep. A satisfied smile curled on my lips. Early the next morning, I immediately decided to go cast the net at Luoshui River. Before heading out, Yulin and Yumai helped tidy up my clothes. The look in their eyes was full of steady, passionate admiration. No hesitation at all. I picked up the heavy old fishing net and strode toward the direction of Luoshui River. Just as I stepped into the water grass on the edge of the pond, my view was blocked by a row of dark shadows. There were a dozen or so people, blatantly blocking the route to the water. The leader, a guy with a face full of scars and a venomous gaze, was the very same, peeling Liu Da from the village head, whom I had slammed into the mud with my net a few days ago. Clearly, he came prepared today. Standing next to him were no longer those sickly lackeys from before, but a group of burly men, each with tattooed green waterweed on their arms. They carried short knives with blood grooves, rusty fish spears, and heavy iron nets. One glance and I knew. They were infamous thugs from the neighboring Haishui village. This crew ran rampant on the water. Even the county constables dared not mess with them. Liu Dahuzi spotted me as soon as he glanced up, and his ugly face immediately twisted in rage. New and old grudges made his eyes bloodshot. But his feet were rooted firmly to the spot, purposely keeping 3 yards between us. That day when I nearly broke all his bones, clearly still haunted his bones. He waved his arm, and the group of Haishui village thugs immediately spread out into a half-moon formation, cornering me on the riverbank. Lu, there's a road to heaven and you won't take it. But you barged straight into hell. Liu Dahuzi glared at me, grinding his teeth, his tone full of provocation. But the stiffness in his legs gave away his fear. He knew well that if they fought me on land, even outnumbered, my monstrous strength would be enough to drag a few of them down with me. Liu Dahuzi suppressed his fear, switching to a sly man of the river's act, and pointed at the deep pool behind him. Don't say we're not giving you a chance. This Luoshui River is about skill. You showed off your power on the bank last time. But today, since we're fighting for a living, let's settle it with river rules. We'll have a competition. Let's see who can hold their breath underwater the longest. Whoever stays at the bottom the longest gets all the free water spots. A cruel smile appeared on Liu Dahuzi's face, one of extreme malice. The loser has to leave an arm behind and stay far away, from within 10 miles. Do you dare accept? I stopped, my gaze calm as water, slowly scanning over Liu Dahuzi and the thugs. With my enhanced senses from the marrow-cleansing pill, I easily caught their movements hidden beneath their long coats. Those Haishui village thugs had sharp underwater daggers on their backs, and there were tangled tendon nets hidden in their right sleeves, made for trapping hands and feet. Clearly, this wasn't some competition, but a poorly disguised death trap. If I dared enter the water, they'd immediately drop all pretenses and swarm me. In the deep water where ordinary people can't breathe, and movement is restricted, they'd use hidden weapons to cut me to pieces, and then claim I drowned by accident. Cannot deny, it's a vicious plan. But too bad they not only blocked my income, they also blocked me from getting the system's surprise. With my expertise in fighting and basic breath technique, I saw through their tricks instantly. Let alone my trump card, turtle breath skill unlocked by the system. When holding my breath underwater, I could sleep there for 3 days and nights, and my inner breath would remain endless. This kind of suicide mission not only didn't make me concerned, it made me excited. I was worried about interruptions when retrieving treasures, but now someone showed up to clean the field for me. I casually tossed the fishing net onto the dry grass, faced Liu Dahuzi, meeting his malicious glance, stepping forward boldly without fear. My powerful aura forced several thugs to involuntarily step back. Liu Dahuzi, your worthless life means nothing to me, but But since you want to play, betting an arm is way too cheap. I'm not interested. I looked straight into his eyes, my tone completely steady, but carrying an undeniable, ruthless pressure. Let's change the rules. Losers leave their lives at the bottom of the river. Winner takes the whole river. If you don't dare enter the water, kneel down now and knock your head 3 times. Then get lost. Liu Dahuzi and his thugs were stunned. They clearly didn't expect. Not only did I not back down, I was even more arrogant, raising the stakes to a fight to the death. Liu Dahuzi was so furious, he laughed, striding forward looking murderous, directly accepting the life or death wager. To them, veteran desperados of the river, as long as their feet weren't on land, they were kings of the water. I was just a penniless kid, even with some fighting skills. Once in the deep water, I'd be just a slab of meat for them to carve. I couldn't even bother looking at them. Took off my jacket and tossed it aside, revealing muscles, refined by the marrow cleansing pill, lean and powerful. I strode toward the cold, deep pool. The icy river quickly reached my knees and waist. And just as the water reached my chin, turtle breath skill automatically kicked in at full capacity on my system panel. My breathing became slow and long. My inner breath was hidden, and all my pores seemed to open, naturally, absorbing every bit of oxygen needed from the water. No suffocation or resistance at all. My body felt weightless, as if one with the current. The river roiled violently. Liu Dahuzi led 4 of Haisri village's toughest thugs, following behind, like hungry wolves plunging into the deep water. It was dark at the bottom, and frigidly cold. The thugs barely spent a moment underwater. They didn't even bother pretending. They had no intention of stopping or holding their breath. 4 of them, like a silent arrow shot from the string. He drew out a gleaming, icy water splitter from the water, and, with incredible skill, attacked me from all 4 directions, lunging fiercely toward me. Meanwhile, big bearded Liu was right above me, quickly unfurling that barbed, sinewy bullhide net, trying to completely cut off my escape to the surface for air. This was a flawless underwater kill formation. However, suspended in the middle of the deep pool, I felt not the slightest panic. My gaze passed right over them, and I vaguely noticed deep at the bottom of the pool, a strange shimmer like a system prompt flashing in the depths. Watching these guys' faces, slightly twisted by the water pressure and adrenaline, the cold smirk at the corner of my mouth slowly bloomed underwater. On land, I could crush them with ease, but in the water, my turtle breathing technique makes me even more invincible. Today, the bottom of the Luo River will be the only resting place for these villains. As for the great fortune, it is mine to claim. Underwater combat. Evil meets its retribution. Big bearded Liu and I are gambling with our lives, competing in underwater skills. The icy water of the pool instantly swallowed up all the noise from above. Around me, there was only the subtle murmur of water flowing past my ears. I closed my eyes, letting my body sink slowly into the darkness. The turtle breathing technique granted by the system activated automatically the moment I hit the water. My heartbeat gradually slowed down, each beat steady and powerful. My pores all over my body seemed to turn into countless tiny breathing organs, like a hard cold stone at the bottom. I felt none of the damage of oxygen deprivation. Time ticked by second. Soon 3 minutes passed. To the average person, 3 minutes of holding your breath during intense movement is pushing the very limits of danger. Suspended in the deep, I could clearly sense the churning water around me, growing increasingly restless. Big bearded Liu couldn't hold it anymore. The oxygen in his lungs was obviously gone, his face swelling purple-red from holding his breath so hard. But he never intended to surface for air. Instead, a cruel, desperate glint flashed in his eyes. He suddenly drew the sharp dagger strapped to his thigh and gave a hand signal toward the depths of the waterweed. The 2 Blackwater village kids who dove down with him, somehow biting on a hollow reed in their mouths, using that little edge to get some more air. Like 2 black phantoms, they lurked out from the bottom, 1 on each side. The 3 of them, including big bearded Liu, formed a deadly triangle, locking me firmly in the center. In their minds, no matter how tough I was right now, I should be delirious from drowning and lack of oxygen. my limbs growing numb. This underwater ambush was a trick they'd used countless times at the river's bottom, never failing once. Unfortunately, this time, their prey wasn't me. Just as big bearded Liu raised his dagger, about to stab it fiercely into my heart, I suddenly opened my eyes wide. No fear, no struggle, no dying weakness. Through the murky water, big bearded Liu met my gaze dead on. Clear, mocking eyes. Eyes looking at him like he was already a corpse. I even, underwater, smirked provocatively at him, slowly raised my right hand, and flashed him a perfectly modern middle finger. Big bearded Liu's pupils contracted sharply. Utter disbelief on his face. Water rushed into his slightly open mouth, sending out a string of frightened bubbles. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. Someone holding their breath underwater for over 3 minutes could still be so calm and collected. But he had no time to think. The arrow was already knocked. Big bearded Liu grit his teeth, teamed up with the other 2 thugs, and all lunged at me with their weapons. But fighting underwater is a whole different world from the surface. The water's drag severely weakened their speed and explosiveness. A fight that, to a normal eye, might seem unavoidable. Look to me, whose eyes were enhanced by the enzyme pill. As slow as children swinging wooden sticks. Even more critical was my turtle breathing technique, with endless internal energy, while every one of their strikes was burning through the last scraps of oxygen in their lungs. I sneered to myself. My movements underwater were slippery as a squid, without even a pause. At a freakish angle, slipping right past big bearded Liu's dagger, barely grazing its edge. In that split second, I grabbed the thug on my left by the hair, bursting with outside force, and slammed him hard downward. The thug didn't even have a chance to resist. His neck made an ominous crack. Taking advantage, I reached out and ruthlessly yanked the reed out of his mouth, his last hope for breathing. The life-saving straw snapped. The thug was instantly doomed. A flood of river water rushed into his nose and throat. In agony, he dropped his weapon, both hands clutching desperately at his neck, thrashing and struggling wildly, losing all fighting strength in moments. Seeing this, the other henchman was scared out of his wits and completely forgot about killing, spun around, and kicked frantically, trying to reach the surface for air. I shot him a cold glance, not even bothering to chase after a pathetic coward. Instead, I turned my focus to big bearded Liu, who was now in total panic. By now, big bearded Liu was completely drained, pain stabbing at his lungs like explosions, making him finally drop his dagger. At last he realized, in this deep pool, I was the true demon of the deep. Sheer terror shattered his mental defenses. He kicked madly, desperately trying to bolt for the surface. Since you came down, you can leave your life here. I kicked off the rocks at the bottom with all my strength, shooting up like a torpedo. In a flash, I was right behind big bearded Liu. My powerful arms, like iron bands, locked around his neck from behind. Big bearded Liu struggled wildly, his elbows smashing back at my chest. But compared to my monstrous strength, his struggles were nothing but an ant trying to shake a tree. I dragged his heavy body and swam straight to a maze of submerged deadwood at the very bottom of the pool. Finding a thick root crevice, I slammed my foot down hard, forcing big bearded Liu's right ankle firmly into the dead-end gap between thick roots. Hopelessness in the depths peaked in that moment. Big bearded Liu was locked helplessly underwater. No way up, no way out. The lack of oxygen finally drove him mad. His hands clawed frantically at the muddy bottom, even tearing off his own fingernails from the effort. Blood oozed out, leaving a faint scent of iron in the water. Every time he opened his mouth to shout for help, in exchange, all he got was a rush of icy, muddy water, pouring straight into his lungs. His eyes, bulging with pain, were fixed on me, standing about 10 feet away. He just hovered there at the bottom of the water, arms crossed over his chest, breathing long and slow, watching him coldly, as if taking a casual walk in the park. I watched as he went from frantically struggling to his body convulsing uncontrollably, and finally, to the last traces of life slowly drained away by the dark water. In these chaotic times when people get eaten alive, showing mercy to an enemy is cruelty to yourself. Since he wanted my life, he should have been ready to be fish food. In less than the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Liu the bearded finally stopped struggling. He floated in the current like a ragged sack, completely drowned. I pushed off with my legs and swam upward quickly. Just as I was about to break through the surface, I deliberately dropped the disguise of turtle breath skill, took a deep breath and held it in, water splashing all around. I shot up out of the water, gasping for air desperately. I put on an exhausted look, like I was about to drown, and with heavy steps, waded through the muddy water back onto the shore. The few street punks on the shore who had been anxiously watching, along with that one lucky survivor, the Blackwater Village thug puking on the ground, heard the commotion, and all turned their heads at the same time. When they saw I was the only one who made it out alive, everyone seemed to stop breathing. "Where's the bearded guy?" A thug's legs started shaking uncontrollably, and he couldn't even finish his sentence through the stutter. I wiped the water from my face, and while catching my breath, I shot them a cold, indifferent look. There wasn't a trace of warmth in my eyes. The water below is freezing cold, so he probably went to see the river god. Guess he plans to stay at the bottom for a few more days. I said it as if it was just casual talk. But to the people on the bank, it sounded like a death sentence from the underworld. Someone gulped hard. That survivor just stared at me, like he was seeing a monster wearing human skin. He scrambled to his feet, let out a pig-like scream, and ran off toward the edge of the village without looking back. The other punks were even more terrified, like monkeys scattering when the tree fell, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. I stayed where I was, watching them flee in complete panic. The corner of my mouth lifted in a satisfied, cold smile. From today on this falling water river, no one will dare say a word to challenge me, Lewin. Miracles bring major prizes. The ultimate reward from the falling water river. The withered grass on the shore swayed gently in the dry morning breeze. Watching those surviving thugs disappear at the edge of the wilderness, the killing intent in my eyes faded away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of absolute control. In a famine-stricken Great Xia, where people kill to survive, mercy is the deadliest poison. Only rules backed by absolute martial force can bring real peace. Liu the Bearded used his life to completely clear out all obstacles for me to monopolize the falling water river. From now on, this is the only surviving deep pool in the parched lands, and it's my own endless private treasure trove. With all the trash cleared out, it's time to collect that unexpected surprise the system promised. I turned and walked back to the riverbank, picked up the old fishing net I threw into the dry grass earlier, and with my body enhanced by the marrow cleansing pill, even after just surviving a deadly underwater fight, my blood was still pumping strong, like I had limitless energy left in me. I took a deep breath, my gaze locked onto the center of the deep pool, right at the dark spring mouth connecting to the underground river. On the system panel, that brilliant aura of fortune representing top-tier resources kept shining from that spot. I rolled my shoulders, and my toned muscles were tight under the morning sun. At that moment, the god-level net casting skill activated in my mind, a skill that's already become second nature to me, etched deep into my bones. My waist and abs tensed, both arms swinging up, raising the heavy water-soaked fishing net, and in midair, unfolding it perfectly into a giant circle, targeting dead center of the river, and cast it down. As soon as the net hit the water, the dark pool below suddenly burst out with a dazzling dark golden light. The glow was so intense it shone through the muddy water, straight to the surface. Right after that, a terrifying pull like a 1,000-pound boulder dropping shot up the net rope and jolted my arms. The riverbank mud under my feet instantly sank into 2 deep pits. My body lurched forward, uncontrollably. If not for the transformation from the creek water pill, that vicious backward force could have dragged a grown man straight into the deep water. Whatever's beneath the surface was no joke. My gaze sharpened, but I didn't let go. Instead, I drew on the wild stubbornness in my bones, dug my feet into the shore, ran turtle breath skill at the same time, keeping my energy steady and strong, and gathered all my strength into my arms. Bit by bit, I forced the net rope back, as the water's surface churned violently, like boiling hot soup, with undercurrents raging in chaos. The force inside that net was massive, and the rough net cords scraped my hands into bloody lines, but I didn't feel a thing. If anything, the thrill in me only intensified at facing this living mystery. After half a stick of incense's worth of a life and death contest, the furious power under the water finally started to fade. I let out a roar, drove my waist and back to the limit, and hauled the last of the fishing net out of the water, slamming it hard onto the cracked riverbank. A stunning scene unfolded before my eyes. Inside the old net, stretched to the point of tearing, was a long, slender, giant mutant carp, with golden scales that looked like they were forged in pure gold. It writhed furiously, the morning sun shining on its body, reflecting a blinding, dazzling golden light. Even more astonishing, this beastly koi's lips were adorned with 2 golden whiskers, each over half a foot long, waving on their own like dragon whiskers. It simply lay there, yet its entire body radiated an intense vitality. Even the dead, dried-up air around it seemed instantly reignited by that life force. At that exact moment, the system's cold, but blood-pumping mechanical voice appeared in my mind. Detection complete. Congratulations! Host has successfully captured the rare water dragon whisker golden carp. Item identification complete. This fish is an unparalleled medicinal treasure, rarely found in the world. It has miraculous effects of reviving the dead and restoring flesh to bones. Its value is extremely high. Congratulations, host, for completing a hidden fate plunder. Extra drop rewards unlocked. Obtain top-tier aquaculture techniques. And a blueprint for improvement. Stored in the system warehouse. Listening to the system prompt, I looked at the net, at the dazzling longshoe golden carp shimmering with golden light. My heart began beating faster than ever before. This isn't just about a few 100 pounds of fish stock anymore. This is wealth beyond comparison. In these hard times with scarce medicine, a supreme elixir capable of reviving the dead and restoring flesh to bones means a priceless treasure. It means having an absolute bargaining chip for life and death among the powerful elite. The minimalist vegetables I sold to Yonning a few days ago only helped me solve my hunger and lifted me out of the refugee class. But this longshoe golden carp before me is what truly gives me the qualification to make my moves in these chaotic times and play the game of power, the ultimate weapon for developing influence. I deeply understand the need to keep wealth hidden, especially in these lands filled with starving people. Without any hesitation, I willed it and immediately activated the system space, storing the longshoe golden carp along with the fishing net, all together into the absolute preservation storage space. The once nerve-wracking riverbank instantly returned to calm. I wiped the sweat from my forehead that had seeped out due to exhausting effort, changed into a clean outer shirt, and turned to walk briskly toward the outskirts of the village. With these aquaculture techniques and improvement blueprint, in the future, Luoshui River will truly become the Lu family's money tree. And now I need to bring this longshoe golden carp, capable of shocking the entire city, straight to the drunken immortal restaurant in the county town. Yun Yang, the enchanting and charming top fish manager,
Has
access to the top circles of officials and nobles in the city. To ordinary people, this fish might only bring insane fortune. But with Yun Yang's connections, and the capital I now possess, it will become the key for me to fully open up the commercial world, and even unlock the doors of officialdom. As I entered the city this time, what met my eyes was only bleakness. With the longshoe golden carp in my possession, capable of defying fate itself, I planned to give Yun Yang a huge surprise. But after just turning 2 quiet streets, the sight before me made my heart sink suddenly. Normally, the streets are bustling with cars and people. Even in disaster year, there are still wealthy merchants. The usually bustling Zuixian restaurant now had its doors tightly shut. On the golden signboard that was usually polished to a shine, a thin layer of dust had settled. Not even a single attendant stood at the entrance to greet guests. There were only 2 Yamen officers with their hands on their waist knives, standing expressionless on either side of the steps, ready to seal off the place and arrest people at a moment's notice. Something had happened, and I furrowed my brow. I quickly made my way to the side door in the back alley, where deliveries usually came in. Though it was also tightly locked, I could faintly hear stifled sobbing from inside, mixed with hurried, chaotic footsteps. I gently knocked on the door ring, 3 long and 2 short knocks. It was the secret code Yan Nang and I had agreed upon earlier. Moments later, a thin crack appeared in the door. A plump face appeared, filled with worry and red eyes. It was none other than Chef Zhang from Zuixian restaurant. When he saw me, Chef Zhang looked as if he'd just seen his savior. He hurriedly opened the door wider and pulled me inside in one swift motion. He then peeked outside quickly, making sure no officers had noticed, before slamming the door shut again. "Master Liu, thank goodness you're here." Chef Zhang's voice was noticeably trembling, all his usual shrewdness utterly gone, replaced by overwhelming despair. "Something terrible has happened. I fear Zuixian restaurant is finished." I glanced around the courtyard. The staff at Zuixian restaurant were all crouched in the corners, looking absolutely devastated. Even Wan Fugui, the most arrogant of them, was wiping away tears. The entire restaurant was shrouded in a feeling of imminent collapse. "Don't panic. Get it together and talk," I said firmly, my voice leaving no room for doubt as I exuded calm. It instantly calmed down the panicking Chef Zhang. Chef Zhang wiped sweat from his brow, and only then began to stammer out what had happened. It turned out that the newly appointed prefect had just taken office, when his favored wife suddenly fell gravely ill, bedridden and unable to get up, her life hanging by a thread. All the famed doctors in the city were at a loss. Finally, a traveling master declared that the only cure for Madame's illness required dragon whisker golden carp as medicine. Only then could she be kept alive, and maybe stand a chance of recovery. Desperate to save his beloved wife, the prefect immediately issued a strict order. Every restaurant and shop dealing in aquatic goods in the city must find this rare fish within 3 days. If they failed, they would be seen as deliberately obstructing and letting someone die without lifting a finger. Any establishment involved would be shut down, the managers imprisoned and held accountable. Shopkeeper Yan has gone mad with worry. Chef Zhang's face was miserable. In the past 2 days, he'd searched through nearly every fishing family in the city, even offering a reward of 1,000 taels of gold. But in a year of extreme drought, even ordinary carp are hard to find, let alone the legendary dragon whisker golden carp. That's nothing short of a mythical creature. Where are we supposed to find that? A thought flashed across my mind, and a playful smile curled at the corner of my lips. Dragon whisker golden carp. For anyone else, this would be certain doom. But fate has funny ways, as though everything is predestined by some system. Didn't the system just give me that ultimate gift, which now sits quietly in my storage space? Where's Yan Yang now? I didn't rush to reveal anything, but asked instead. "She's in the private room on the 2nd floor." Chef Zhang sighed. He's been trying everything he can think of, even planning to sell the restaurant and family assets, to go out of town and buy one at a high price. But there's simply not enough time. If even you have no ideas, Master Liu, you should really just go, before you get dragged into this mess with us. I patted Chef Zhang on the shoulder, reassuring him to relax. "Tell Yan Ning, I can handle this. Not only will the restaurant not be shut down, even that strange illness of the prefect's wife, I can find an explanation for." Chef Zhang was stunned, gaping at me in disbelief, as if he couldn't trust his own ears. But I didn't give him a chance to doubt. I went straight through the messy backyard and headed up to the 2nd floor, pushing open the door to the private room. The strong scent of incense couldn't cover the tension in the air. Yan Yang was standing at the window with her back to me, her figure as graceful as ever, but her back, always straight before, now slumped a bit with despair. In her hands, she clutched a list full of medicinal herbs, her knuckles white from gripping it too hard. When she heard me come in, she whirled around suddenly, her usually bright, lively eyes red with bloodshot veins, her whole face gaunt and drained. When she saw it was me, a trace of hope flashed in her eyes, but it faded quickly. Master Liu, if you're here to deliver fish, I'm afraid we can't accept any today. Yan Yang's voice was hoarse, full of exhaustion. Zuixian restaurant has suffered a huge calamity, and there's no way the business can go on. I sat down at the table and poured myself a cup of now cold tea, but my tone remained surprisingly light. Whether the business can go on or not isn't up to the prefect, nor to the heavens. I looked up at her, my gaze sharp. Shopkeeper Yun.
If I said not only could I save Zuixian restaurant,
But also make you the prefect's most honored guest, would you still want to do business with me? Yun Yang stared at me intensely, as though trying to see if I was playing some cruel joke. Just then, at this critical moment, a loud commotion of footsteps sounded from downstairs, accompanied by the most arrogant laughter. Yun Yang, this is fate. Accept it if you don't want to end up in jail. Hurry up and open the door for me, girl. Though the voice was slightly weak, that disgusting smugness was all too familiar to me. It was Master Zhao, the very old fool who'd just been frightened out of his wits by me, making a comeback at this critical moment. And from the sound of it, he must have found Yun Nang's weak spot. I put down my teacup, a cold killing intent flashing in my eyes. What a small world this is. Since someone's asking for trouble, I might as well settle all our scores with interest. A narrow road for enemies. Using someone else's hand to do the dirty work. The door to the private room was rudely shoved open from the outside, the door slamming into the wall, knocking dust loose from the ceiling. Master Zhao's bloated figure swaggered into the room, though his face still bore the pallor from being terrified by me before, and there was a thick bandage wrapped around his neck. None of that mattered at all to his current smug and villainous grin. 4 burly men followed behind him, holding brooms in their hands, blocking the previously spacious room completely. And Master Zhao, handled cautiously, carried a blue and white porcelain fish tank, tightly wrapped in red silk. When he saw me sitting at the table, Master Zhao's beady eyes suddenly narrowed, obviously reminded of that day in the courtyard. The fear of being lifted single-handedly by me, he instinctively took half a step back, hiding behind his bodyguard. But then he looked at the fish tank in his arms, and suddenly straightened his spine. Oh, isn't this that poor wretch from the Liu family? Master Zhao let out a sinister laugh. His eyes were filled with venomous hatred. What, you also want to help Manager Yun with her troubles? Stop dreaming. This dragon-whiskered golden carp is a natural spiritual creature. People like you, mere peasants, won't see even a fish scale your whole life. I picked up my teacup, gently blew the floating tea leaves, didn't even spare him a glance. Seeing Master Zhao's posture, her face looked incredibly grim. She forced herself to stand up. Her voice was cold and hard. Zhao Digui, you're not welcome here. If you came to laugh at us, you can get lost right now. Here to laugh? Absolutely not. I'm here to save your life and give you a chance to make it big. Master Zhao swaggered up to the table and heavily set down the fish tank covered in red silk. His greedy gaze roamed wantonly over Yun Yang's voluptuous figure. That nauseating possessiveness was on full display. Madam Yun, magistrate, you only have 1 day left as county head. If you can't hand over the fish, not only will this drunken immortal restaurant be shut down, you'll also be thrown in jail. The taste of prison isn't something a delicate woman like you could endure. As Master Zhao spoke, he suddenly snatched away the red silk on the fish tank. In an instant, a dazzling golden light shone from inside the tank. In the clear water, a golden carp was swimming leisurely. Its scales gleamed brightly under the sunlight, and it really had 2 long whiskers on its mouth. At first glance, it truly looked magical. See that? This is the dragon-whiskered golden carp. Master Zhao pointed at the fish tank, spitting as he spoke. This is something I paid a fortune for. Intercepted from traveling merchants from out of town. This is the only one in the whole county. Yun Ning's dead, hopeless eyes suddenly brightened. She stared at the fish in disbelief. She started breathing rapidly. This is literally a lifeline. The only hope for drunken immortal restaurant. What do you want? Yan Niang asked in a trembling voice. Master Zhao chuckled darkly, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth. Sign over the property deed for the restaurant to me, and sign the transfer paperwork here and now. Come home with me tonight. As soon as you become my 27th concubine, this fish will be your dowry. I'll deliver it to the magistrate's office for you. How about it? Pretty fair deal, right? Yan Yang's body swayed. Her face instantly went pale. Handing over her life's work, and having to give herself to this disgusting old man, that was worse than death. But if she refused, her home and family would be ruined. She bit her lip. Tears welled up in her eyes. Her gaze filled with desperate struggle. I sat nearby, watching Master Zhao's pathetic performance with cold eyes. The moment the red silk was lifted, I'd already quietly activated the basic prosperity sight technique. In the eyes of others, that was a shining mystical treasure. But from my perspective, that so-called golden carp was obviously just a common grass carp. Those shiny golden scales were painted on with some unknown gold powder, and those two whiskers were just glued on with something. Master Zhao was swindled and didn't realize it, and he wanted to use that fake to threaten Yan Ning, even planning to give it to the magistrate's wife as medicine. That's suicide. Seeing Yan Yang on the verge of collapsing, about to agree to the humiliating terms, I suddenly set down my teacup. The porcelain cup tapped the table with a crisp sound and rang out sharply. Wait, I stood up slowly and blocked in front of Yan Ning. Master Zhao was startled by my sudden movement. He jumped in fright, barked threateningly. Wu An! What are you trying to do? This is the treasure to save the magistrate's wife. If you damage it even a bit, not even 10 heads would be enough to pay for it. I looked at him. A strange smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. Not only was I not angry, I even cupped my hands politely to Master Zhao. My tone was full of sincerity. Master Zhao, you misunderstand. I'm just saying it's not worth it for you. What do you mean? Master Zhao was stunned. Think about it, this is the dragon whiskered golden carp capable of bringing the dead back to life. If you give it to Manager Yan and let him hand it over, all the credit will go to him. By then, the magistrate will appreciate him. He'll be the one owed a favor. All you get is a woman and a building, compared to earning the magistrate's immense favor. Isn't that like picking up sesame and dropping a watermelon? I guided his greedy heart step by step. If you deliver the fish to the authorities yourself, then you're the one who saved the magistrate's wife. If the magistrate is pleased, forget owning this restaurant. He might even give you all the business in the county. Wouldn't it be just a word from him? Master Zhao's eyes began darting around wildly. Greed is the Achilles heel for men like him. And my words hit right on target. Right, what's a woman compared to that? If he could get close to the magistrate, no one in the county would dare mess with him. You're making sense. The lechery in Master Zhao's eyes was quickly replaced by a thirst for power. He hugged the fish tank instantly and looked at Yan Ningye warily. Count yourself lucky, kid. You couldn't handle blessings like this. I'll enjoy them myself. Yan Yang panicked and tried to stop him, but I discreetly squeezed her wrist hard. She sucked in a cold breath and froze in her tracks. Master Zhao, you're truly wise. Such a colossal reward needs you to claim it personally. I sidestepped to give him a clear path, with a mocking smile on my face. You'd better hurry. If you wait, the magistrate's wife might not make it. Of course, who dares stand in my way? Master Zhao, afraid we'd steal his glory, clutched the fake dragon-whiskered carp in the tank, and with his thugs, stormed out of the private room, heading straight for the magistrate's office. Not until his arrogant footsteps disappeared did Yan Yang seem to lose all her strength and collapsed into her chair. She looked up, with eyes full of anger and confusion, glaring at Luan. Are you crazy? That was our only hope. Why did you let him take it? You're forcing me into a dead end. I watched Master Zhao's distant figure out the window, my gaze cold as steel, and sat back down at the table. I poured myself a cup of hot tea. A lifeline. I let out a light laugh. My tone carried a cold indifference, as if in control of life and death. That's a deadly poison. Manager Yan finally relaxed. In less than half an hour, there would be no Zhao family left in this county. Miss Yun was utterly stunned. Just wait and watch the show. I took a sip of tea. My gaze was deep and thoughtful. You don't always need a knife to kill. Sometimes greed is the sharpest blade. Their organs reflected the landlord's negativity. The atmosphere in the private room was suffocating. Miss Yun didn't understand what I meant. She continued to complain non-stop. I paced back and forth in the not-so-spacious room. The hem of my ornate dress dragged along the floor, leaving messy marks behind. Lu-An, you really got me into deep trouble. Miss Yun stopped in her tracks. Both hands gripped the edge of the table tightly. Those bloodshot almond-shaped eyes stared intensely at me. Her voice trembled with barely suppressed anger. That dragon whisker golden carp was my only way out in this county. Not only did you watch Zhao Degui take it right in front of you, you also deliberately manipulated him with words, forcing him to go to the yamen himself. Do you realize? If that fish really cures the magistrate's wife's illness, Zhao Degui will rely on the magistrate's power and completely wipe out our drunken, immortal tavern. By then, do you really think you, a powerless country bumpkin, can get away unharmed? Faced with his barrage of questions, my expression stayed the same. Even my fingers holding the teacup didn't tremble in the slightest. Manager Yun values insight in business. Whether judging people or objects, it's always the same. I poured out the cold leftover tea in my cup, carelessly splashing it onto the ground, then met his eyes. My tone as calm as discussing the weather. You only saw the dazzling gold on that fish. But it's not actually a dragon whisker goldfish. Miss Yun was stunned. Emotions about to break flooded over, but my abrupt words cut them off abruptly. You mean there's something wrong with that fish? His voice involuntarily dropped as I smirked, a cold smile curling at my lips, and mercilessly revealed the truth. That's not some legendary spiritual creature. It's just an ordinary carp painted with gold powder and dusted with armor scales. That idiot Zhao, eager to cozy up to the authorities, was set up and deceived, and couldn't control himself. He sent that fake, full of death and poison, into the magistrate's office. Does he expect riches and glory, or to be charged with a crime? My words hit like a heavy blow, landing hard on Yun's heart. She stared at me in disbelief with wide eyes. Her body swayed violently. If she hadn't held onto the table, she would have collapsed. She finally understood why I had stop him, or even go with the flow. Hand that huge credit right over to Master Zhao. If he had really signed the indenture just now and took that fake fish to the yamen, he would be the one in mortal danger right now, along with Yan Niang and everyone at Jim and Lu. You saw through it all early on. So you were using the magistrate as your weapon. The way Yan Niang looked at me changed completely. Her previous contempt and anger vanished, replaced instead by an awe and fear as deep as an abyss.
He just couldn't figure out
How a young farm boy in coarse clothes could have such a ruthless eye for things, and such deep, calculating cunning. I didn't answer. I simply looked quietly out the window. Judging by the time, that fantastic show must already be underway. Sure enough, just about the time it takes for a cup of tea, at the end of the previously dead silent street, an uproar suddenly broke out. The sound of hurried footsteps, horses neighing and armor clashing filled the air, all mixed together, like a surging tidal wave, sweeping through the whole West Main Street. Then, the door to the private room was suddenly flung open from outside. Chef Zhang came tumbling in, rolling and crawling. He rushed so fast, he even fell headfirst to the ground. But he didn't care at all about the pain on his body. His face was full of exaggerated, intense joy and shock. Scrambling, he lunged over to the table. Young Master Lu. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Chef Zhang was so excited he could barely speak coherently, waving his chubby hands and shouting loudly. That old bastard Zhao Degui. It's over. Yan Yang suddenly stood up, grabbing Chef Zhang by the collar, pressing impatiently. What happened? Spit it out. Chef Zhang gulped, panting as he reported. Just now, Zhao Degui took the fish and headed for the yamen. The county magistrate was absolutely delighted at first, and immediately ordered the fish to be made into medicinal soup on the spot. But as soon as the fish hit the boiling cauldron, Its fake skin instantly melted into the broth and turned into a foul-smelling pool of black water. Both long whiskers floated to the surface. Turns out they were glued on with swim bladder glue. When Yun Yang heard this, she gasped sharply, her back immediately drenched in cold sweat. Chef Zhang excitedly kept waving his arms. The doctor checked the black soup and said the fake not only had no effect, but was actually... The magistrate flew into a violent rage right on the spot, overturned the tables, and accused Zhao Degui of plotting mischief under his wife's skirt, intending to poison the official lady.
He immediately had the constables pin Zhao Degui to the ground
And gave him 50 hard strokes. The heavy boards ripped open his skin, so he couldn't even cry out in pain. And that wasn't even the end of it. There was a look of great vengeance satisfied in Chef Zhang's eyes, as if a great score had finally been settled. The magistrate directly scared Zhao Degui to death and ordered his execution after autumn,
He immediately sent 3 squads of officers to Zhao's village.
to confiscate the entire family's property. All of Zhao's farmlands uprooted for good. The private room fell terribly silent. Yun Yang let go of Chef Zhang's collar, her whole body seeming drained, collapsing heavily into the Grand Master's chair. She gulped for air, her chest heaving violently. Only now did she truly realize she had just brushed past the gates of hell. Not only had she saved her own life, even Drunken Immortal Pavilion's biggest rival and threat had been wiped out in less than half an hour. And the one who masterminded it all was the young man sitting right across from her, who from start to finish hadn't even moved from his seat. When Yun Yang looked at me again, there was nothing mixed in her eyes now. Only total surrender and fervor remained. In this dog-eat-dog year of famine, following a man like this, even if hell was waiting ahead, he could still carve out a path to survival. Young Master Liu, Yun Ning's voice turned extremely soft, even tinged with a hint of respect and eagerness she'd never shown before. I stood up, straightening the hem of my robe, killing with a borrowed blade, taking out Master Zhao. This unexpected windfall pleased me greatly. But it's not enough. Not nearly enough. Although the magistrate's wrath burned Master Zhao to death, the deadly order to deliver the dragon-beard goldfish by the deadline has not been revoked. If the magistrate's wife can't be cured, all the merchants in this city will still be living in fear. Looking at Yun Ning Yang's fawning face, I knew the time was finally right. This woman had been thoroughly conquered by my methods. Now it's time to reveal my real trump card and completely seize this city's largest restaurant, along with the influential connections behind it, firmly in my hand. I reached back into the basket behind me, as Yun Yang and Chef Zhang watched in confusion, sinking my mind into the system. Master Zhao brought a fake. My tone was calm, with an unmistakable authority. But what I, Luen, am delivering is the true dragon-beard goldfish. My words sounded like thunder out of nowhere, exploding through the silence of the private room. Yun Yang immediately looked up, her eyes locked tightly onto me, filled with utter shock and disbelief. I paid no attention to their astonishment, reaching into the shabby-looking bamboo basket at my feet, using the basket as cover. I quickly communicated with the system space in my mind, bringing out the peerless treasure I had netted from the bottom of that deathly chasm. When I took it out, that long-bodied, huge carp, its whole body shining like cast gold, I brought it out steadily and placed it in the middle of the table, in a wide-mouthed celadon bowl filled with clear water. The dimly lit private room was instantly filled with a soft, yet intensely piercing, dark golden glow, lighting up everything. There wasn't the slightest trace of fishy or foul smell. Instead, the air was immediately filled with a rich vitality that just smelling made you feel revived. This rare spirit beast didn't show the slightest sign of weakness or dying. The 2 pure gold dragon whiskers at its lips, half a foot long, floated naturally with the water's ripples. Each and every golden scale showcased an unbeatable, unmatched vitality. Wang Fugi's legs buckled. His knees banged hard on the floor. It was like all his strength had been drained away. His eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets, mouth gaping, unable to utter a single sound. He could only stare dumbly at the fish in the bowl like a statue. Yan Yang was hit even harder, rooted to the spot, with both hands pressed tightly over her red lips, her chest heaving with overwhelming shock. Looking at that extraordinary specimen, thinking back to half an hour ago, and that dead fish scarred with poison powder that Master Zhao brought in rage, her heart was in utter turmoil. She finally understood that this man in coarse peasant clothes before her was not only as deep as an ocean in wit, but had terrifying force, and in his hands held enough power to shake the whole county. An unparalleled bargaining chip among the powerful elite. This is real. Yan Yang's voice was trembling uncontrollably. It carried an extreme reverence for something miraculous. Absolutely genuine. I leaned back against the grand armchair. My gaze calmly swept over the two of them, exuding absolute control, to cure the strange illness of the magistrate's wife. Is that enough to guarantee the peace of Zuishan restaurant for you? Yan Yang suddenly snapped back to reality. In her enchanting eyes, an unprecedented fanaticism ignited. Extreme delight. At this moment of life and death, she displayed the decisiveness of a top female merchant. She turned abruptly to look at Chef Zhang, who was still standing nearby. Her worried expression instantly turned resolute. Go and stand guard at the staircase right now. Without my command. Anyone who dares approach the private room even half a step, I'll skin them alive myself. Chef Zhang came to his senses as if waking from a dream. He stumbled and scrambled to leave the room. He also slammed the heavy mahogany door shut on his way out. He even locked it from the outside. The room instantly fell silent. Only Yan Yang and I remained. Just the two of us, and that golden carp quietly swimming in the basin. Relief after the crisis brought utter relaxation. Yan Yang finally shed her usual air of social grace and the aloof facade of a powerful woman. She understood very well that Master Zhao died from greed. But Zuishan restaurant survived because of this man right in front of her. In this ruthless dog-eat-dog world, a woman's beauty and wealth, without absolute power, would inevitably become someone else's plaything. But now, a towering tree that could cover the sky sat right before her. She took a deep breath, slowly raised her hand, and gently undid the top frog button at her collar, revealing a white, slender, dazzling jade neck. Yan Yang took small, delicate steps and gracefully moved to my side. She didn't touch the priceless fish. Instead, very naturally, reached out her well-maintained, fair hands and gently placed them on my shoulder. A unique, intoxicating fragrance of mature womanhood, mixed with the heat of her excitement, was transmitted to me without resistance. Her way of addressing me changed to brother, and her voice softened. Alluring to the core. It was almost electric, enough to make one's bones and marrow go weak. She leaned her enticing, curvaceous body down slightly, her arms gently wrapped around my neck from behind. Most of her soft, full body was practically pressed against my back. She brought her delicate and beautiful face close to my ear. Her warm breath brushed against the side of my neck, sending an indescribable tingling sensation. You not only saved my life, but also gave me an incredible fortune. This immense favor, Yan Yang could never repay even if she were crushed to pieces. She moved around behind the chair and slid naturally into my arms. Obediently sat astride my lap. Her enchanting eyes, almost brimming with tears, looked up at me with a hint of shyness. Her gaze was openly filled with seduction. From now on, this Zuishan restaurant, everyone from top to bottom, including myself, Yan Yang, will follow your every word. If you tell me to go east, I would never go west. This body, and the entire property of this restaurant, are all at your command, master. I looked at this wildly fawning beauty in my arms, feeling her amazing softness and burning warmth. I reached out with my rough fingers and gently pinched her smooth chin, forcing her to meet my predatory gaze. Conquering a woman with both wealth and intelligence was far more exhilarating than simply earning a few thousand silver taels. It made my blood boil even more. I spoke overbearingly and promised her, "Be my woman, and it's the best deal you'll ever make in this life." Yan Yang's eyes grew red with emotion. Without any hesitation, she took the initiative to lean in, responding passionately to my declaration. At that perfect moment when everything fell into place, a cold, mechanized voice suddenly rang out in my mind. Detected, host used absolute luck and skill to subdue the exceptional merchant lady Yan Yang. Congratulations, host, on successfully recruiting a high-level business vassal. Clan and influence have expanded, with a key breakthrough. Extra divine reward granted. The lost legendary skill rejuvenation acupuncture has been mastered automatically. With this achievement, patient's subconscious trust during treatment will reach maximum level. As the system notification fell, a vast and profound knowledge of medical science, basic apprentice-level skills, and flawless muscle memory all flowed in and flooded my mind like a torrent in an instant, merging thoroughly with my entire body. With just a thought, every meridian, death point, and vital gate in the body became as clear as a map in my palm. With one arm I hugged Yan Yang's slim, snake-like waist, feeling the surging strength inside, and the miracle bestowed by the system in my mind. A cocky grin appeared at the corner of my mouth, knocking on the magistrate's door at night, looking down on people with dog eyes. The county city under nightfall feels like a land of death. Only the 8 massive lanterns at the magistrate's office gates are brightly lit, illuminating the high blue stone steps as bright as day. I declined Yan Yang's offer to send a carriage escort. With one hand, carrying the Celadon fish tank thickly covered with black cloth, I set out alone and ascended the steps symbolizing the highest power in the county.
Tonight,
I will personally deliver this dragonbeard golden carp. Before I could even reach for the majestic beast-head door knocker, one side door of the tightly shut, lacquer-red main gate was violently yanked open from inside. A fat steward dressed in blue silk, with slanted shifty eyes, surrounded by a group of strong yamen runners, all armed with waist knives and sturdy wooden batons, strode out with a vicious look on his face. The head steward glared at me rudely under the lantern light, and for convenience, I was still wearing my faded rough linen work clothes and straw sandals stained with water and mud. Even though the body refining pill had transformed me into a sturdy figure, with an imposing presence, in the eyes of these government thugs who habitually look down on people, this kind of appearance was an ingrained mark of lowliness. They didn't even consider me worthy of being near that door. There was a flash of open contempt and extreme disgust in the steward's eyes. He eyed me with disdain from the corner of his eye, his tone biting and vicious. Where did this mangy mutt from the countryside come from? Coming to the magistrate's door in the middle of the night to court death? Are you here to beg for food? Go find scraps at the burial grounds outside the city. Take another step onto these stairs, and I'll break your legs tonight. Facing such an opportunistic thug, I was completely unmoved. Not a single ripple of emotion. I stood still in the middle of the steps. With an indifferent expression, I stared at that greasy face. My tone was calm, as if I were giving an unquestionable order. Go inform the magistrate. Tell him the golden dragon whisker carp that can save his wife's life has been brought by me. As soon as these words left my mouth, the fat butler was stunned at first. Then, as if he'd heard the most absurd joke in the world, he pointed at me and burst into unrestrained, wild laughter. The group of officers behind him also let out a series of ear-piercing guffaws. The way they looked at me was as if they were seeing a lunatic desperate to be reincarnated. Golden dragon whisker, huh? The butler stopped laughing. The fat on his face was squeezed together fiercely by anger. A vicious glare erupted in his eyes. Looks like the sun really is rising in the west today. Just this evening, some fat pig named Gao Degui tried to pull a scam here with a worthless grass carp painted to look special. He almost poisoned Madame Baoming to death on the spot. Now, that fat pig has already had his lower half beaten to a pulp by the magistrate, thrown into the death row to await execution after autumn. And who do you think you are? Some filthy, lowly bumpkin with muddy feet, daring to drag a broken water tank here to the yamen looking for credit? He suddenly waved his hand.
His face grew so dark it looked like it might drip water. He didn't bother to hide the murderous intent in his eyes.
These past couple of days for Madame's illness, it's been full of people like you, hoping for a shortcut up the social ladder. Hucksters who've lost their minds. I've really seen enough today. Men, take this overreaching troublemaker and smash all his hands and feet for me. Take that worthless fish tank along with him and throw them both into the stinking ditch outside the city. Feed them to the stray dogs. With a single order, the 6 strapping officers behind him immediately pounced like wolves. Their heavy, solid wooden batons swept through the air, leaving fierce afterimages. Whistling with a force that tore through the air, they aimed their savage blows directly at my legs, smashing toward my knees and the crown of my head. These officers have gotten used to oppressing commoners and taking lives lightly. Every move they make is a deadly attack with no mercy. In the eyes of these bullies relying on their power, a life like mine, just an ordinary citizen, is worth even less than weeds by the roadside. They can kill me however they please. I stood my ground, watching those batons whistling through the air towards me, the corners of my mouth. A cold, chilling arc formed at my lips. I didn't back down an inch. With my left hand, I still held that heavy Celadon fish tank as steady as a rock. Even the black cloth covering it didn't flutter in the gusts of wind. With my system-granted mastery of martial arts and the superhuman strength from the marrow-cleansing pill, these fearsome enforcers, so terrifying in ordinary eyes, seemed to me as slow as children just learning to walk. Their moves full of openings didn't even require half my strength to counter. A staff was about to smash into my face. My body subtly shifted at an odd angle in place, the tip barely grazing past the bridge of my nose. Just as the attacker's strike lost momentum, and he was wide open to attack, my right leg snapped out like an iron whip, landing a fierce blow at the man's lower chest. A dull sense of bone displacement shuddered up through my instep. A man nearly 8 feet tall, weighing almost 200 jin, couldn't even let out a scream before his body flew back like a broken kite, crashing through the air and smashing hard into the marble lion statue at the entrance. He fainted on the spot, his fate unknown. I instantly turned from defense to offense, like a fierce tiger charging into a flock of sheep. Bringing with me a wild, overwhelming force, I crashed straight into the formation of the remaining 5. Instead of retreating, I pressed forward, my right hand forming a palm from a fist, as sharp as a blade, precisely slicing through the gap between the 2 converging staffs. My fingers clamped onto one staff like iron pincers, grabbing its end in an unbreakable grip. I twisted my body with a sudden burst of power, forcibly dragging both man and staff over, pulling the officer in front of me with brute force, and followed with a savage reverse elbow strike, carrying the power to split stones. It crashed viciously into his jaw. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed limply onto the cold stone steps. The remaining 3 were now in total panic. Never had they seen anyone, bare-handed, still holding a heavy item in one hand, take down 2 armed enforcers in the blink of an eye. Overwhelming fear made their movements slow with a deadly hesitation and terror. I gave them no chance to recover or beg for mercy. My figure darted between them like a ghost, my right fist carrying tremendous force, smashing ruthlessly into their joints and vital points. No fancy moves. Each attack pure, direct, and mastered through fighting skill, designed to instantly strip opponents of combat ability. Within a few breaths, 6 once arrogant bullies of the yamen were now all sprawled like mud, fallen on the cold stone steps. They clutched their broken bones in agony, so racked with pain they couldn't even stand, let alone flee. The whole process was seamless. It happened so fast no one could react. Yet the Celadon tank in my left hand remained steady as a mountain, not a single drop of water spilled. Walked coldly past the wailing bodies on the ground, climbing the steps one by one. The once arrogant, overbearing fat steward now looked like he'd seen the king of hell in broad daylight.
He stared at me, transfixed, his jowls utterly stiff with fear, his face frozen with terror. His legs trembled violently like a sieve,
and by instinct he tried to escape back inside, only to find himself paralyzed by fright. Finally his knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the threshold. I stopped less than half a step from him, looking down at his paper-white, horrified face. A killing intent, honed from mountains of corpses and seas of blood, mixed with overwhelming pressure after my transformation, crashed down on him. Like a tidal wave, his mental defenses were almost entirely shattered. I kept my face utterly calm, my deep eyes swirling with a terrifying abyss. I resembled a god holding the power of life and death. Didn't I just say I'm here to deliver long su to Manager Wang? I leaned down, staring into his eyes, my tone gentle, but every word cut to the bone. Now tell me, can I cross this threshold of the yamen? Or not? The fat steward slumped on the cold doorstep, his body like a pile of mud. His beady, bloodshot eyes were locked on me, his lips trembling violently, yet he couldn't eke out a single plea for help. The murderous aura I exuded completely destroyed the cowardly bravado he normally relied on to bully others. Just as I was about to step over this useless waste, entering the prefect's yamen, deep within the doorway, the sound of delicate yet orderly footsteps suddenly came, with unmistakable discipline. Next, the 2 grand vermilion doors, reserved for nobles and officials, were slowly pushed open from inside. Who dares make such chaos at the gates of authority? A woman's cool yet commanding voice, with a hint of weakness, cut through the night. It echoed above the steps, penetrating the darkness. Hearing this voice, the fat steward lying on the ground seemed to grab the last straw, scrambling and crawling toward the doorway. He pointed at me, wailing for Madam. Madam, save me. This country brute god knows where he came from. Not only injured 6 of our enforcer guards, he's still holding some broken water tank, and shamelessly claims he's here to cure you. He's clearly an assassin. Give the order quickly. Summon the archers. Have this criminal executed on the spot. I raised my eyes, looking at the center of the doors by lantern light, where I saw, surrounded by 4 pretty maids, a woman draped in pure white, a young madam in a fur fox cloak calmly standing at the top of the steps. This was the infamous lady thief, the prefect's beloved. Her hair styled in intricate coiffure, her beauty unmatched in her generation. Time had left no trace on her face, instead lending her a worldly, mature charm no young girl could match. The grace of a true noble. Yet at this moment her once rosy cheeks were deathly pale. A heavy aura of sickness shadowed her brow, and she had to lean on the maids just to stand. That body was clearly at the edge of total collapse, faced with the steward's vicious accusations, and the wails all around. I made no effort to explain myself, nor did I show a hint of panic. I simply stood there, holding that black-draped Celadon fish tank with one hand, posture tall and proud. My gaze, deep and calm, met hers without hesitation, locking eyes with this mature woman who held power over life and death in this county. Excuses are for the weak. The truly strong never stoop to argue with those beneath their feet. The lady prefect's eyes swept across the broken enforcers on the ground, and finally settled on me. She was born to command. I've encountered all kinds of people from different walks of life. In his understanding, if an ordinary commoner injured an official, they would already be so terrified that they'd fall to their knees, begging for mercy and trembling all over. But the young man in rough cloth standing before him not only showed no fear whatsoever, but possessed a calm and steady demeanor akin to Yuding Yu, even more composed and deep than those high-ranking officials he'd met before, with an even more reserved and profound presence. What shocked him the most were my eyes. In them there was no greed, no flattery, only a sense of indifference toward life and death, and an overwhelming confidence that controlled the entire situation. Even facing the formidable walls of the prefect's mansion, he still stood like an unshakable solitary peak. You say you brought the Longshu yellow gold carp? The prefect's wife ignored the crying steward at her feet and looked straight into my eyes, asking in a cold and clear voice. I spoke concisely, my tone calm and assertive. Madam, you absolutely must not believe this scoundrel's lies. The fat steward anxiously kept kowtowing and pointed at me violently. This evening, Zhao de Gui, that old scoundrel, almost endangered your life with poisoned fish. This peasant is definitely cut from the same cloth. Who knows what hidden weapon might be concealed under that black cloth? Madam's noble status must not be put at risk again. His words did hit the critical point. With the earlier lesson from Master Zhao's poisoned fish, anyone faced with a stranger who suddenly shows up claiming to offer treasure would be extremely cautious. Not to mention, I forced my way in with violent means. The surrounding maids showed fearful expressions, and all advised the madam to retreat to the inner courtyard for safety. I sneered and was about to turn and leave. I, Luan, hold the ace of destiny in my hand. Since these officials can't recognize real value, I could easily wait until the prefect's wife completely despises the prefect and offers a reward throughout the city to cash in for an even greater profit. My possessions are absolutely not to be doubted, like picking out cabbages. Just as I was about to move, the prefect's wife, standing on the steps, suddenly pushed away the maid's support. Stop! She sounded extremely exhausted, but sternly rebuked the fat steward, then locked her gaze onto me once again. This time, a decisiveness flashed in those previously dull eyes, showing an extraordinary resolve. As for Zhao de Gui, he's just a foolish, greedy man. There is greed in his eyes, so he acts sly and despicable. The prefect's wife took a deep breath, and a rare hint of determination appeared on her pale face. But this young master is different. In his eyes, there's not a hint of flattery toward power. Someone who could, barehanded, defeat 6 armed guards in an instant. If he truly wanted my life, he wouldn't need to go through so much trouble. She defied all opposition, and, in front of all the servants, solemnly nodded toward me and made a gesture inviting me in. My frail body can't last through tonight anyway. Since this young master dares to risk himself alone and knocked on these mansion gates, then I'll trust him this once. Treat a dying horse as if it could live. I'll take this gamble. Though her voice was gentle, the prefect's wife exuded a powerful aura of authority. As she looked at me, her gaze was full of unwavering trust. I stopped moving and turned around, looking at this woman, not only stunningly beautiful, but also possessing such rare courage and wisdom, a truly remarkable lady. The smile on my lips gradually widened. Dealing with smart people is always the most pleasing thing, since she dared to entrust her life to me. I can guarantee her a long life in this chaotic world. What admirable resolve, madam. I lifted the fish tank and strode up the final few steps, passing by the fat steward, who lay on the ground like a dying dog. This door, once I enter, no one can make me walk out again. Madam's life will not be taken by the king of hell tonight. As I passed by him, I walked in without hesitation, stepping into the prefect's residence, symbolizing supreme power. This elegant lady watched my tall and broad back, and deep in her eyes, an unusual glimmer quietly appeared. Then, supported by the maid, she followed my steps into the inner hall. Acupuncture with golden needles, turning danger into safety, reviving the dead and healing wounds. Entering the prefect's wife's bedroom in the inner courtyard, a strong and bitter aroma of herbal medicine hit me immediately. On the luxurious rosewood canopy bed, the prefect's wife had her eyes gently closed, reclining weakly against soft pillows. Several close maids stood nervously by her bedside, constantly using warm water to wipe the cold sweat on her forehead. Just outside the door, a decisive and elegant woman appeared, now stripped of her forced dignity. Her vitality was visibly declining at a rapid pace. From the maids I learned that the prefect had to dispatch troops overnight to suppress refugee riots caused by drought in the neighboring county, and isn't in the mansion at the moment. That undoubtedly gave me the perfect opportunity to proceed, and spared me all the pointless official questioning. Endless bureaucracy. I placed the green porcelain fish tank on the rosewood table in the outer room, and dismissed the unrelated servants, leaving only the 2 most reliable confidants to help the maids serve. I walked up to the bed, without any hesitation, naturally extending 2 fingers. and placed them on the prefect's wife's thin, pale wrist. In that moment, the system granted me the profound medical knowledge contained in the rejuvenating needle, which surged through my mind automatically. In just a few breaths, a sharp, cold gleam flashed in my deep eyes. My gaze briefly turned icy, as I asked, "The specialist you previously hired," said Madame, "had both blood and energy deficiencies, and a strange illness caused by evil wind invasion." I withdrew my fingers, and calmly looked at the maid standing aside. The maid, eyes red with tears, kept nodding, saying all the doctors in town gave the same answer. "Quacks harm people." I snorted coldly, and took out a roll of silver needles from my coat. My tone was filled with absolute control and certainty. "This is not an illness, madam. You've been poisoned by a rare and hidden Western toxin, the bone-crushing sand. This poison is deeply concealed, slowly eroding the heart and veins. If today, I treat the longshoe golden carp simply as a tonic, and boil it for madam to drink, the surge of vitality would instantly trigger the toxins. Madam wouldn't survive even until midnight tonight." As soon as those words were spoken, the prefect's wife on the bed suddenly opened her eyes wide, and the two maids turned pale with fright. In this tightly guarded prefect's mansion, it turns out madam has been poisoned in secret right under everyone's noses. The conspiracy and inner household struggles behind all this are absolutely shocking. But in the famine years of the great Xia, I only care about how much leverage this miraculous favor can bring me. As for who poisoned her, that's the magistrate's problem to worry about. The magistrate's wife looked at me, her pale lips trembling slightly. In those experienced eyes swirled shock and lingering fear. He did not question my diagnosis. Back at the entrance of the manor, he had already chosen to stake his life on me. At this moment, he trusted my judgment completely. "Young Master Liu, since you could see through the poison at a glance, I trust you must already have an antidote." Her voice was as faint as a thread, yet carried a desperate will to survive my life. "I entrust it wholly to you, young master." I nodded slightly, wasting no words. I instructed one of the maids to go outside, following my extremely precise method with perfect timing. She collected the dragon tendons, the single best golden scale from Manager Huang's abdomen, and 2 liang of fish meat, to simmer into a bowl of concentrated supreme medicinal soup. Then I turned around, my gaze clear as I looked at the girl lying on the bed. "Madam, the acupuncture to draw out the poison in a moment will not only require opening the due meridian on your back, but also inserting needles into the 3 major death acupoints on your chest. There can be absolutely no clothing in the way." My tone was supremely professional and restrained, without a hint of impropriety. On the magistrate's wife's cheek appeared a faint and extremely rare blush. But after all, she was a remarkable woman used to turmoil. At this life and death moment, he abandoned all worldly propriety, and, with her maid's help, took off her outer fox fur cloak, along with her silken undergarments, sitting cross-legged with her back straight toward me. Her bare back, as smooth and fair as mutton-fat jade, was revealed to me without reservation. Only on that skin, which should have been flawless, at this very moment, there was a horrifying bluish-black tinge, spreading rapidly toward her heart. I held my breath and focused, my mind completely clear, my eyes instantly turning sharp as a falcon's. After cleansing my marrow,